I've put Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and the entire Ivy League in college football 25, and I'll be taking over the conference for the next 10 seasons. Every year, this wheel will decide which college I use, and my hope for this video is we can make the Ivy League a Power 5 conference to replace the Pac-12 spot. There isn't much going for any of these schools though, besides dominating in the academic prestige school ranking, but I'm sure at least one of these teams will turn into a powerhouse during these 10 years, and this wheel will determine which team we rebuild every season, with the first one being Princeton. We might actually be able to win the Ivy League in year number 1. We're projected to finish 3rd in the conference. Just taking a quick look at the team as well, I see that we have an exciting freshman running back. Plus, we'll also be led by another freshman at quarterback, Nick Stackhouse, who's already up to a 77. That is really good for our conference, so we probably shouldn't have to focus on recruiting too many quarterbacks, but I am still going to try my luck at one 4-star in this first season. I'm basically going into this whole conference rebuild raw because every single season we have to change our team based on what the wheel says, so I'm not sure what to focus on. And I don't think looking through team needs means much if we can't win games on this schedule, where I'm seeing some difficult matchups, including at number 2 Georgia to start the year. Princeton is the first team we're taking over, and I already don't feel great. But on the bright side, we at least had 500 hours to spend a week, so we can go after 10 prospects at once. And it's nice to see that not only is our academic prestige super high, but also our campus lifestyle. I know there's some stuff like championship contender where we're really going to struggle, but at least it seems like Nick Stackhouse had a great first game as a freshman quarterback, and I will gladly take us only losing to the Bulldogs by 17. For our next game though, against FCS East, I actually want to hop into it, get some feel for this Princeton lineup, and I think we're going to be able to start this game off with a touchdown. We just need that throw to be on the money. From a jersey standpoint, this is going to be one of my favorite schools to probably use in the Ivy League, but all the teams in our conference just moved up from the FCS level, so I was expecting this to be tight. Fortunately, we have been able to finish off a few offensive drives. I think we're about to get another touchdown, and they're going to be in a pretty tough spot if they can't pick up this 3rd and long where we're getting the sack. I'd consider this ball game right here if they're not able to pick it up. They've thrown it over the middle, but Sahara's coming away with the interception, and now we have to go for the return right here. Oh, they're going to catch us. Either way, there was no coming back from that. Princeton is going to win their first game here at the FBS level, and I've been very impressed with Nick Stackhouse. It has come to my attention, though, that his potential replacement, Carlos Martinez, is not going to be recruited by us very well unless he cares about academic prestige. And at least to my surprise, I wasn't expecting EA to have it that realistic, but a lot of the players interested in our school care about academic stuff. Since we're changing schools every year, though, I'm going to follow the rest of the conference pretty closely too. There's nobody in it that's still undefeated, and I think we still have quite a while before we even start conference play. Of course, we are going to lose to Temple on the road, but it was a bit closer than I thought it would be, and we actually need to play against UMass too, because this game could have huge implications on our future recruiting class. It turns out the one 4-star we're going after does care about academic prestige, and we have him on a visit week where he could commit. So this feels like a game that we should probably hop into, and we're about to start off with the first touchdown. It is a sunny day here at Princeton, but that is what we wanted. And Stackhouse has done such a good job of getting this team down the field. I'm gonna try to run one in himself. That unfortunately did not pay off though, making this 4th and goal where he is gonna complete it. These kids aren't just smart, they're also pretty talented. But the longer it's gone on for, the more UMass has started to have more success. And that drop on 4th down could be pretty costly if we can't just get them off the field right here, but we are. It looks like a touchdown could still win us this game as they make the kick. And I don't think we've gotten a full look at the Princeton Stadium yet, so we got to make sure to at least show it off. There is a lot of pressure on Stackhouse to not throw interceptions, and myself, mainly because I'm incredibly talented at doing so, but we're going to make this a 3rd and 10. It's dropped. We cannot afford to mess this drive up. We need to beat UMass. I want to have a chance of getting that 4-star quarterback. And every time they run man-to-man coverage, it's pretty hard to find somebody that gets open. Things are looking a little bit better though as we continue to take these underneath routes. And on this play right here, we're just going to hit the freshman with the freshman, but it's picked off. There's nothing I can do about that. I hit the button that was there. I shouldn't have thrown it. I am refusing to take responsibility for my own actions, but it's starting to set in. I probably should have just taken the sack. And I've saved all 3 of our timeouts just in case we do manage to pick up this 4th down. But it turns out in the end, we're just not going to be able to take down UMass. Luckily, I still think we have some stuff to look forward to during this season because we have all of our conference games remaining. We could still win our conference. And I'm feeling pretty confident about the recruiting class that we're putting together, even though we are going to lose out on landing Carlos Martinez. It is time to see how we do against Penn though. I'm just going to sim this one, and I won't limit myself to how many games I can hop into in a season in this video, but I can just see that this year is going downhill. We just lost at home by 5 points. We then have 3 road games in a row coming up, and if there's ever a moment where we get some coach points, I think we're always going to have to pour them into tactician, just because this boosts up your stats of everybody on the team. I feel like if the wheel takes me to a new school every season, I won't have enough time to unlock the recruiter skill tree, and that's going to make things tough for us, but also the coordinator hires are pretty important. I like the ones that Princeton has at the moment though, so I'm not going to change anything up. And I was expecting this team to not do well on the road, but they actually won 2 of these 3 games. Just taking a quick look at the conference standings, Yale is the only program that's not going to be bowl eligible no matter what happens. And just taking another look at our recruiting class so far, we have not lost a battle besides that 4-star, now signing 12 3-stars. We're going to need some of these other schools to start stepping it up though. Nobody's signed a 4-star yet, of course. There's a few schools that have mainly just signed 2-stars. And Harvard's class might be ranked in the top 25 at the moment, but they've only signed 1 guy that's above that. The outlook for the Ivy League might not be great, but Dartmouth could have a pretty good season if they beat us. Except that did not happen. We won this game 21-7. Now looking at the rest of our schedule, we could be bowl eligible with Princeton if we just beat both Yale and Harvard. Plus there's even a spot in the conference championship on the line because there's a 3-way tie for 2nd place. We're in an interesting spot at the moment. We just have to make sure that we win at 1-8 Yale. And take a look at all the empty seats in the stadium back there. There's a lot of missing ones. People have not showed up to watch their freshman quarterback, but that's because he hasn't had a great season, which has made things pretty easy for us in this game. Now there are still some situations that make absolutely no sense, like how we just dropped that football. I could not tell you. Stackhouse is also not much of a scrambler. He just turned into one for that play as we're going to go up 21-0. Although Yale made a decent effort in the final couple minutes, scoring 14 points, there was no way they were going to come back. And this means Nick Stackhouse is just 1 win away from getting Princeton into a bowl. Technically, it could always happen this week against USC, but I think we know that we're going to lose this. And it wasn't particularly close. We lost 61-3. Most of our wins this year have come against other Ivy League opponents. If we want to earn our spot in the conference championship though, all we have to do is make sure that we don't lose to Harvard. And the Crimson might be the same overall, but we have the home field advantage. I feel like it's definitely contributed to us having a 7-point lead with 3 minutes left. And we should have gotten the interception right there, but they've decided to punt it back to us instead of going for it for whatever reason. That means we can try to run out the clock versus them. We won't need much, but we will need a couple more first downs, and on 3rd and 1, we're gonna not get the toss. This could be a mistake, but I'm gonna let Lienhart try and pick this up. The blocks have lined up perfectly, and the freshman running back might be off to the races. They did stop him a little short of the end zone, but either way, this game is completely over. He's still going for the touchdown, and we have been able to run out the rest of the clock. It is a shame that Mick only got 7 carries in this game, but most teams in the Ivy League did beat up on each other, so we're in the conference championship. I wish I could change the American branding. We're gonna pretend it's not there for this video, but as you can see, there are 4 bowl eligible teams from our conference. That's half of them. And I wasn't kidding about every time that we get coach points, we have to make sure that we max out all of these things in the tactician tree first. After that's done, we're probably going to explore architect. I'm glad it's already unlocked for Princeton's head coach. And just to be transparent, I have made sure that coach firing is off for this video so the same coaches can stay with their schools alongside making sure they progress faster. I'm almost certain that applies to every school in the game, so by the end of this, everybody's going to have a level 50 head coach. And when it comes to our coordinators, I actually don't want to fire these guys. They have both already maxed out motivator. The next thing that they're going to max out is tactician. And I think that's pretty useful. Now, before the transfer portal period, there's going to be 27 3-stars that we've targeted. I'm not even scouting them, but more so just trying to get a bunch of bodies in for this class. It looks like Cornell has overtaken Harvard for that number 2 spot. With all that out of the way though, it's time to play our first conference championship game against 8-4 Penn. And we have a great opportunity to get off to a good start as we've driven it down inside the red zone. There has been a holding penalty on that play though. So freshman quarterback Nick Stackhouse has been backed up a little bit more, but we'll go right back to our running back who catches it. Ramey is another freshman that's been very effective whenever we don't have Lienhart out there. But these holding penalties are going to drive me nuts, especially if we're dealing with them all game. I think we're going to get held to a field goal on this first drive, even though it should have been 7. And you know what? Lienhart's looks so good off of this run that I'm going to give it back to him. This stretch play is great. It looks like there's also a lot of people in the crowd for this matchup, which you would think would benefit Penn, but as we start this 4th quarter, you're going to see they're losing and they're about to go down by 2 possessions. That is what we needed right there. The little guy gets it done again. And I'm hoping that we're able to continue to hold on to this lead. On 3rd and 10, the halfback screen's going to make it a 4th and manageable. But we all know if we can get this stop right here, this game is over and they're going to take their drag, which is not enough. From there, we just focused on running down the clock. We even kicked another field goal to really seal it. And I think his season stats are going to disappoint me. Either way though, we are 1 for 1 whenever it comes to winning Ivy League championships with the teams I'm using. But we have a very long way to go. I want this team to be able to make more than just the Frisco Bowl. And I'll consider it a success if any team from the Ivy League is able to make it into the playoffs. That is my eventual hope. I am disappointed to say we lost our first battle for a 3-star. But these 3 athlete running backs all have come in with star devs, so you might be able to recognize these names in a few seasons. Like I said, I'm going to be very curious how every team does in the Ivy League each season. Columbia had the best offense, averaging 27 points per game, and they also had the best defense, which is why I think it's weird they went 3-4 in conference play while our defense was one of the worst in the conference. From a statistical standpoint, Nick Stackhouse wasn't the best quarterback in the Ivy League either. He threw 10 interceptions while Columbia's only had 5. He will be back for another season though in the future. It looks like Keontae Tyson was the best running back on Penn. And then some of these receiver names might get repetitive since they're all team builders, but there was only one receiver with over 1,000 yards in the conference, and he was on Princeton. It is kind of crazy that after that, LJ Young Jr. would still threaten to transfer out, but he doesn't have that much more to improve on. And I just hope for the sake of this team, he stays around for another season. But look at these rushing stats. Mick actually did get more carries than Jaquan Ramey. I'm happy for the 9 rushing touchdowns for the freshman. Now we have to see if we can take down Washington State. And just for some reference, these are the other bowl games going on in the conference where it seems like SMU might be the hardest opponent. My expectations are not high. This is only season 1 of the 10 seasons we're playing. And I thought we'd compete better in this game, but we're going to go down by 3 possessions. Washington State's offense hasn't been the best. It's really been their defense that's the problem. And I knew our record was kind of inflated based off of the teams that we were playing in Ivy League play. But this has just been a disappointing showing. Our offensive line can't block. After getting beat in every single facet of the game, we have lost the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl. It is a disappointing time for Princeton. But we were not the only team from our conference to lose. Dartmouth lost to Tulsa, while Columbia won their bowl game, and so did Penn against SMU. We might have taken home the conference championship trophy, but we didn't finish with the best record in the conference. And I just remembered, we have to see what teams had first-team All-Americans representing their program. This is a pretty big deal. Princeton had 4 of them on this roster. The freshman All-Americans, though, is where you find the future of the conference. Princeton has Nick Stackhouse at quarterback, both of the running back slots. And then scrolling down to the defense, I'm seeing a lot of Princeton and a lot of Dartmouth. If I had any early predictions to which team from the Ivy League has the best shot at making the playoffs like 5, 6, 7 years from now, it's probably one of those 2. But I don't get to use Princeton for much longer. We have to try and convince these players to stick with the program. And besides that first one, they're all seeming to do so. They didn't lose that many good seniors either. What I'm realizing is this really good team and recruiting class I've built up is now going to be a team I have to face. And to my surprise, there's not just 3-star transfers interested in the program. There is also a 4-star transfer that plays linebacker. Will we get Danny NIU? Probably not. I think he'd be a better fit on the Huskies. And I can't act like I'm too surprised Oregon took away a couple of these prospects. We also lost out on some of the other transfers at the bottom of our board. But that's okay. We still came in and signed a top 50 class in our first year with Princeton. And looking at the rest of the conference, that is by far the best one. So some of these other schools need to bring in more players, especially more 3-stars, or they're not going to be able to compete. Like, what is Harvard doing? They better hope over there that they are good at developing 2-stars, because they have 29 of them. And the reason I cared about transfers so much is they're going to be our highest rated players in this class over all the 3-stars that we targeted. After I move around a lot of these players though, it's going to come to the time where I have to say goodbye to Princeton. I have to find a new team. But I think we did a pretty good job with Princeton. A lot of these players jumped up to much higher overalls. They are now an 84, and Nick Stackhouse is an 86 as a sophomore. They might just turn into a powerhouse in the Ivy League, and I'm going to be inheriting somebody that is not as good. It's going to be Harvard in season number 2. And if I'm remembering right, they were a pretty average team in the Ivy League. I'm pretty sure they finished like 5 and 7. As you can see though, pretty much every head coach has already maxed out at a level 50. So I could have made a slight mistake by putting Coach XP speed on the fastest, but we're just going to make sure recruiters all filled up. What I've learned from this is even if you max out your head coach at a level 50 and you fill up everything else, there are still a couple slots that aren't going to be able to be full, though tactician is. And taking a look at these coordinators, I'll probably fire them at the end of the year to get more tacticians in here. Just looking around the rest of the conference though, a lot of these head coaches are about a level 29, level 27, 46 at Yale, so there's some of them that still need to go up. And it just hit me as I'm trying to encourage players to transfer, there's 18 that we have to get rid of, and that's because they just signed like 29 2-stars. I can't believe I'm saying this, but with only 6 seniors on this roster, there's no reason for me to recruit many players to this Harvard team. And that means if there's any 4-stars willing to give us a chance, we might as well try and get them. This should be an interesting season. At least there's not anybody like George on our schedule, though we do have to play at Penn State. And taking a full look at this roster, player overall wise, this seems to be pretty similar to what we were working with at Princeton. They have this 85 overall receiver, Josh Carswell. He's a star dev. He still could get his route running to go up. And there's also some depth at the quarterback position. They have this freshman quarterback alongside Ben Harris, an 83 overall junior. Now you do have to keep in mind, this kid's normal dev without any tactician boost, he'd actually only come in around a 78 overall. But those are certainly going to help us out, and anytime we can redshirt freshmen throughout this entire video, I think we have to make sure we do so. If any of these Ivy League teams are going to have any chance at a championship in 10 seasons, player development's pretty important. You can see a lot of 4-stars won't even consider us. I'm glad that some of these players will. And if I scroll through the 6 players that we're putting 75 hours on, you're going to notice 2 things. 1, 4 of them are wide receivers, and 2, all of them are gyms. We only have 450 hours to spend a week, but some of these players would be super exciting to use if we ever get Harvard again. And that's who we're going after, but our first game of the season's against 83 overall UConn. I simply just trusted our team in sim though, and we won this one 37-19. And if we just beat Navy, we can start this season 2-0. This could be the perfect way to open up this season at Harvard. But it isn't exactly working out the way I thought it would. This ref seems to be in the way. They're on a 3rd and 5 where if they score a touchdown, they take the lead, but instead we get the interception. That's what we wanted. Either way, we have only scored 10 points against them. That is not enough. But I am feeling much better than I was a second ago, and we gotta beat them with this reverse. We're literally getting like no yards. John Slade, the sophomore running back's gonna get this carry, and it's gonna get us a few more. But Ben Harris is gonna have to help us clutch up here on 3rd and 8. And I threw that a second too late. That was almost picked. I think we are going to survive on the road against Navy, though. We keep on picking up first downs. And that means we've improved to 2-0. This is not what I was expecting out of Harvard, though. It might be better than the Princeton team we had last year. And we're already having some great success as we have signed the 4-star strong safety. He was interested in our school before the year started. There are advantages to having a level 50 head coach already, though. I don't think we can beat Penn State. And of course we didn't. We lost by 21, but using that same score, we flipped it and beat an FCS school the next week. Going into conference play, we are tied with Princeton for the best record. Some of these teams have already played a game or two, and one of those is Yale, who I know is Harvard's biggest rival, so we have to hop into this. First, I should probably mention though that we've already been able to bring in 4 of the 4-stars. We're going to sign these other 2 most likely with or without a win, and then we're also unlocking some of the battles that were previously locked. It's pretty hard for me to believe that there's going to be more seasons that could be more successful than this one. I feel like everything's set up so well. But then again, there is still a ton of years left in this rebuild. If we can win a matchup like this though, I think Harvard's set up better than Princeton. I think they're set up better than Dartmouth. We fumbled it on the goal line and they're picking it up. That was a costly mistake from Ben Harris. We wouldn't even get back into the red zone until later here in the 3rd quarter, but the comeback route didn't get open. And they're going to score the first touchdown of the game off of my pick 6. Hang on, there might be a chance we can catch him with Suro right here. Come on, make the tackle. This game should not be going the way that it is, but they have just played like perfect defense against us. We're not going to catch that. And as time runs down in this one, even after getting into the end zone, we still find ourselves down by 7 points against Yale. It has been a very, very rough game for Ben Harris, but I'm going to keep on trusting him. This is going to take us to the 30. And I consider this game against Yale one that we simply just can't lose. So we're going to try to scramble with him, see how fast he actually is, which turns out to be pretty quick. Now we're going to throw to our best receiver, and he hangs on to the ball, even with contact. Josh Carswell says it is his time to shine. But guess what I just noticed? During simming the extra point, we ended up missing it, so we are losing by 1. I thought I could trust the computer to hit like a 10-yard kick. Now we have to lean on our defense to get a stop. And that was a little nerve-wracking right there. They almost were able to break free on that last one. Now it is 3rd and 12, though. It seems like they are just going to go back to the run, and we got them down. If they hit this field goal, we are going to have to score a touchdown to beat Yale. We're trailing by 4. But I believe that this Harvard team can pull off the comeback, and with the kick return, we have a chance to get loose here. Hang on. Asher Varner goes to the 40. All right, now all I have to do is not throw a stupid interception. I also can't go down in bounds unless we get to the sideline. So that was a good little start right there. Still 48 seconds left on the clock. And I think we're going to have our tight end, but it's underthrown. They are pressing Josh Carswell over on that left side, though, our best receiver. We have the touchdown to triangle, too. I just saw it a second too late, making it 3rd and 10, and we're going to take our slant. It looks like Carswell is able to take us to the 15. I actually like him out of the slot more than anything else. We must have field general on Harris, because it was popping up, this is a cover 3. And if we don't get the first down, the clock's not stopping, but we get into the end zone. That was a perfect drive right there. We still have to play a little bit of defense, though. If they manage to get into field goal range with this little time left on the clock, I'll be heartbroken. And all we can do is continue to just play deep coverage as we're going to get the sack. They even had a false start before they could get this next snap off, so it is 3rd and 21. There's like nowhere for them to go. And if this play breaks down where they pick up a first down, I'd lose my mind. The coverage worked out for us, though. If they are not able to reach the end zone on this final play, we would have officially come back versus Yale, winning this rivalry, and we have. That is a big game in this season, I think. We're up to 4 wins now. And keep in mind, Ben Harris still has another season after this one. I highly doubt we're going to be with Harvard again, but we're setting them up so well as we have now signed 6 4-stars. Plus, I think there's going to be some more coming, but we have to make sure that we don't lose. At some point, we were going to have to sim some games. I didn't realize I was skipping over road matchups against both Dartmouth and Princeton, though. That could have gone much differently than wins. But since it worked out in our favor, we're currently sitting on top of the Ivy League conference standings. We have to continue to win, though, and even though Brown is an 82 overall, they're currently 2 and 6. I feel like we're performing better in the games I simulate. We're also able to sign more 4-stars. And I might just take the rest of this season and leave these 3 games up to sim. Even if Harvard manages to go 11 and 1, I'm not sure this team's going to be ranked. And it is so obvious to me that team overall means nothing. We currently have a freshman receiver that continues to go off. And I'm starting to think this is going to be the best recruiting class I put together throughout this entire video. We've brought 10 4-stars to Harvard, but the lack of control, especially knowing we won't be with them next season, is the biggest issue. We've also lost by 6 points to Columbia somehow. And that would make this game against Cornell a little bit more important, but we're in the conference championship either way. Looking at the standings, if Columbia wins, we're going to be playing against them again. And they must have, because that's who we've drawn, though I see a number 25 next to Harvard's name. To be fair, if 8 and 4 Ball State, 7 and 5 Liberty are inside the top 25, we have to be ranked at 10 and 2. But this is sooner than I thought it would happen, and since our teams can just beat up on each other in the Ivy League, we have 5 of them that are bowl eligible. Now, are we anywhere near our main goal, becoming a Power 5 conference? Absolutely not. But at least some of our teams already have elite staffs. As you can see, these coordinators are basically maxed out. And even if they're not in every category like our offensive coordinator, if you go inside tactician, you're going to see that he has stuff on top and at the bottom. Just like at Princeton, I'm leaving the coaching staff how it is. It's about time that we take on Columbia, though. But before we hop into that game, the College Football National Championship is coming up, and if you're thinking about going, I got the perfect hookup for you. Today's video sponsor, SeatGeek. Everyone can use my code Bordeaux10 and get 10% off any tickets on SeatGeek, whether you're a new customer or not. And that promo's not just for sports games. It can be used for concerts, festivals, anything you can think of. SeatGeek has it, and it can be used for it. Plus, they make it super simple to find the best tickets. They rate everything on a scale from 1 to 10, so look for the green dots. Green means good and red means bad. Remember, no matter how many times you've bought tickets using SeatGeek before, code Bordeaux10 is going to get you 10% off your next order. So take out your phone, open up the SeatGeek app, and add code Bordeaux10 to your account. What are you waiting for? You should do it now because this offer is only available for a limited time. And now we can get back into the rest of the video. There's 18 seconds left in this half. We're driving down the field, already up. But my hope is we can score another touchdown here. I might just throw this one towards the end zone, see if we can make the aggressive catch, and we don't. Either way, though, 10-0 in a downpour would be pretty solid. This kick is going to go straight down the middle. And take a look at how much we've packed out this stadium. What I've really learned about this Harvard roster is it isn't the offense that makes it so dominant, but it's the defense that makes it so we don't have to score that many points, and we're still going to get 24. If John Slade punches this one in, I'm considering it over. And I know I threw an interception on this play last season at Princeton. We're going to see if it works here at Harvard, where we can just celebrate into the end zone. This season felt much better than what we went through last year. They didn't score a single point on us throughout the entire conference championship. And I'm not sure how much longer I can keep up the streak of winning the Ivy League with whoever I'm controlling. This year's Heisman winner didn't have the most impressive stats in the world. I have definitely seen better. Our bowl game is going to be against Louisville, so we have to win it. And I think this is my favorite time time of the year looking through the All-Americans and the season stats, though if Harvard was this good, how did we have like no offensive players in this list? I mean, there's some freshmen up there for them, but Dartmouth once again is putting a lot of freshmen on the All-American team. And instead of there being 4 teams in the Ivy League that made it to a bowl game, we have 5 teams that have made it this far, though I think we're going to have a losing record. Statistically, Ben Harris looks like he didn't have that great of a season in our conference, but his yards are not everything. If you look at touchdowns and interceptions, he actually played pretty well. And I have noticed that Nick Stackhouse would have had better stats if he didn't get injured for a few games. On the rushing side of things, Columbia's always seemed to dominate certain stat categories. That was no different here, but you're going to see John Slade, our running back, up there at number 2, just 2 yards behind. And then LJ Young Jr., who transferred from Princeton to Brown, once again was a 1,000-yard receiver alongside this kid on Dartmouth. If Derek Fucha could have stayed healthy, Harvard might have had somebody up there as well, but that just wasn't the case. And I even like taking a look at the team stats just to see how everybody did. Princeton had the best offense, and from a defensive perspective, we gave up the least amount of points. I'm considering this a very successful season, but it would be even better if we beat Louisville in our bowl game. Obviously, last year with Princeton, things didn't go exactly how I wanted them to, but this season's been a little bit different. We've competed with Louisville all game. They're on a 3rd and inches that we're just not going to be able to stop. They cannot break free for a touchdown. I think we can assume that they're going to try and settle for a field goal, but we can stop them. And then we would get the ball back with a chance to cap off this season successfully. A couple good defensive plays are showing why this team was so successful in the Ivy League. On 3rd down, they don't get enough, but I did kind of let them run for a lot of yards to make this kick. I figured it's the computer. They're going to find a way to drill it either way. With our kick return, we're not going far. But they have come out immediately pressing our receivers on both sides of the field, and I just wasn't brave enough to test it. Their corners seem to be able to stick up with the press, and right here, I'm throwing straight at him. I don't know why I looked off the linebacker. There's no excuses for losing this game. I am bad. I am so dumb for thinking he was playing man coverage on the drag. He just stopped and played that perfectly. And there is no excuses for losing this one to Louisville. I don't like seeing them have any success. We have achieved a lot in these couple of seasons so far, but looking at the bowl game results, Princeton is the only team from our conference that even won. And teams like Dartmouth got their backs blown out 70-14, so there's still a huge gap between the Ivy League and the rest of the country. It's going to be a huge challenge for a school from our conference to win a championship like Oklahoma just did. And I'm not sure why the bracket isn't updating, but I think I've broken this dynasty file by having 8 team builder teams in it. I will be so upset if this file stops working before we get to season number 10, but as you can see, Harvard is only losing 6 players to graduation. And then they're gaining 11 4-stars, so I'm not sure I should even use the transfer portal. I am going to though, because there's a lot of 3-star freshman transfers that would be super useful to them. But to my surprise, some 4-star transfers alongside that, and then I decided to leave this 3-star to Columbia so other teams in our conference can also get good players. If I'm assuming correctly, we should sign every single player that we put 75 hours on. And I did not realize how broken Recruiter really was whenever it's fully maxed out. There are certainly some of these school grades that have gone up during our time at Harvard, but there's also some that are not where they need to be. So it's incredible the type of class that we're recruiting at the moment, but there's some players we can still go after. Columbia's decided they don't want this 3-star left end, and I'm not going to let him go to Ball State, so we're about to max out the hours here. And I really thought there was no way this class turned out to be big. Remember, Harvard lost 6 seniors, so I only wanted to sign the 4-stars, but with all these transfer 3-stars as well, we have brought in 26 players. By the end of the rankings, that's going to give us the 21st best class in the country, and the Ivy League needs it. There was one other 4-star that signed the Dartmouth, but these class rankings are so low. And I'm kind of curious how some of these 2-star transfers at Dartmouth can be rated above the 4-star running back that they signed from Florida. Either way, with getting a top 25 class here at Harvard, I feel like this is the only time in this entire video we're going to be able to do that. It was just the perfect scenario. And there were plenty of players with star dev, but only one with elite dev, so look forward to John Akawara's name in the future at running back. Out of curiosity, it looks like besides Yale, Harvard, and Princeton, all the other coaches are around a level 30 still. And I know that for a fact, none of the teams that we take over next year are going to be as good as 85 overall Harvard. The computer normally manages to self-sabotage, but Princeton has a 97 overall tight end. They're still an 84. And after taking a look at every team's roster, I think Yale is the one place that I do not want to end up. Just based off training results, I'm predicting they're going to have the worst team next season. It is going to give us Columbia. And it looks like the Lions are coming in with an 80 overall team. The head coach is going to be a level 33. Ian White has an interesting coach build. There's stuff in recruiter we could go down if we end up leveling up throughout this year, but not many things in there so far. And he also has the rare program builder unlocked, even though Columbia's not done much, so some of these could actually provide huge boosts. This will be the first time the coordinators get fired at the end of the year though. These guys are not going to cut it for a team that needs to compete for a championship. And they have also over-recruited. There are 94 roster spots taken up, so we're going to have to cut 9 of these players. Keeping it real, it wasn't too difficult to find players to cut, but there are some gaping holes on this team, like there's only 3 quarterbacks. And if sophomore Zach Slaughter ever decided he wanted to transfer out, they would be in trouble. He might have gold field general, but besides that, he's maxed out almost everything. That along with receivers, stuff that we're going to have to fill out because they're losing a few seniors, though I will mention they have a senior running back, Adonis Savage, that comes in at an 87 overall. He never got as good as he should have, and he isn't the fastest, only 90 speed. But it makes me think we can at least have a competitive season while also recruiting to fill up these team needs, because I think we're going to need a full class. With Columbia, we have 500 hours to spend a week, but we can only put up to 50 hours a week into each player, so we can go after more. I actually have some 4-stars on here where Harvard is our competition. And the reason for that is if we could get somebody like 4-star Cam McCaffrey into Columbia, they'd have a very bright future. We can't get too attached to this team though. We don't know how they're going to perform. We're going to sim against 84 overall Army. And it didn't necessarily go terribly. We only lost by 2 points, but I really want to focus on Ivy League play because we've been able to win a conference championship every year I've controlled a team. We could hop into games against teams like Missouri, but I don't think it'll do us any good. Which I think was the smartest decision ever. We've unlocked the architect tree. That means we must have won. Columbia might not be able to take down Army, but they can beat an SEC school by 21 points. And not only can Ian White be a talent developer, also a program builder, but he could go down the architect tree if we really wanted to. This is a versatile coach that's doing his best to recruit, but as you can see, if we go up to the 4-stars, there are some of these battles that we probably aren't going to win. And right before playing 1-4 UMass, we're sitting at 2-2. I think we've had a little bit of luck though. Thomas Waiters won player of the week. And just looking at these non-conference results, I am ready for our 7 Ivy League games where I want to play a majority of them. There's a couple really good teams in our conference that I have personally built, though I'm surprised to see Yale is currently sitting at 4-1. Harvard's lost a conference game. And I have noticed we have 12 coach points to spend where I'm going to put them into recruiter for quarterback, which might seem like a little bit of a weird decision. Normally those should go to tactician, but we got a 4-star receiver. We're not going to get the 4-star running back, and I still think there's a chance with those boosts we get Cam McCaffrey at QB. I'm just hoping that since we beat Missouri this season, we seem like the better option, but it is time to see if we can take down Cornell. And for a team coming off of a conference championship appearance last season, this is about how I expected this one to start. We have taken a 17-0 lead here at home, and Zach Slaughter has been pretty much everything I was hoping he would be. That is such a good throw. I'm also a big fan of Columbia's baby blue jerseys, and just seeing how they performed, I think we have a real shot at getting this team back to the Ivy League championship. Zach Slaughter didn't even have a reason to throw for many passing yards since we were up for most of the game. And following in his footsteps once he leaves the program, Cam McCaffrey, the 4-star quarterback, has committed. This is an exciting season for Columbia, but if you look at the conference standings, Yale is up at number 1. And if we want to take that spot away from the Bulldogs, we're going to have to beat them on the road. Keep in mind, this is a team that I thought would be the worst one in our conference. Instead, they're beating us by 10 points with less than 3 minutes left. But look who's out there on the field. It is Juan Marcus. He has thrown 3 interceptions in this game, and he might be going for a 4th. Zach Slaughter tearing his labrum's going to really hurt this team. He's out for a couple of weeks. We're also missing a lot of other players to injury. And I just don't think the backup quarterback's going to be able to get this done. That was a pretty good drive right there, though. Now we're going for the 2-point conversion, and that ball is caught. So if we're going to win this game, we need our defense to step up, but they're about to get a first down on this first carry. If they get one, this game pretty much ends. I'm hoping that we can stop them here. And here we go. I've tried to get as many players into the box as I can. We just have to stop them short. We do. All right, we are getting the ball back with 1:45 left on the clock. This is our best receiver, our junior, returning it. He's going nowhere. And even though they're having an incredible year, Yale has not fully packed out this stadium. I feel like it's pretty big. I'm sure they play in something smaller in real life. We might have beat the press over on that right side. If we do, we'd have a touchdown. But despite getting burnt, that corner was able to recover, and we're actually going to try and run out a little bit of clock. The last thing I want to do is score too soon because a touchdown wins us this game. But that's a little bit risky because we have no timeouts left. There's only 24 seconds left, and we're going to complete this, break a tackle, but we're not in. I think we're just going to hand this ball off and hope our offensive line blocks. That's a touchdown. And how are we going to win this game with a backup QB that threw 3 interceptions? I am not going to let our kicker miss this. I have learned my lesson from the past. There it is. But I am afraid that even with all this extra effort, we're just going to lose next week. We are going to have to heavily lean on running back Adonis Savage, because whether we like it or not, there's nothing we can do. Zach Slaughter is out for one more game. This one's against Dartmouth, though, that's sitting at 2-5 in conference play. I thought they had a lot of good young guys, but evidently not. We're going to beat them 24-14, and looking at the rest of our schedule, we still have 3 road games. This is probably the most competitive the Ivy League's been at the top so far in this entire video. I mean, there's 2 teams that are still undefeated. We built that Princeton roster, and I'll be looking forward to that matchup next week after we sim past Brown. Unfortunately, even a healthy Zach Slaughter couldn't make a difference. We lost this one 27-13, but we have retained our place in the Ivy League, sitting at number 2 in the conference. We have also brought in 3 4-stars this season. The only one we didn't get was the running back, so that is pretty exciting to see. We've rebuilt this offense in just 1 year, and it's time for one of our toughest tasks. I figured that Princeton was going to be tough to take down, but I thought we'd be in a better position. And instead, with a minute left, we are on a 3rd and 19 where I just want to get a little bit closer. That felt like the right read right there. Now we have to make sure that we pick this up or else we are out of this game completely. We're just going to scramble for it, slide. And these are the types of comebacks that I either come up short in or that we are built for. That is why I want to play games like this. Though I shouldn't have tried to fit the ball into that window right there. Not sure what I was thinking. I don't know why I thought an aggressive catch could actually work. And I think we still have all 3 of our timeouts left, but it's so hard to tell. That scoreboard is way too light of a shade of baby blue. I'm stuck on 3rd down. We can't get it back. And I'm afraid that just forcing it into the seam, trying to make an aggressive catch is going to be the reason we lose to Princeton. There was no reason for it. Nick Stackhouse didn't even play that good. But I'm trying to see how this could be a positive. And here's the thing. If they win out, this makes our conference look a lot better in the future. If we scroll up, their only loss was to number 14, Hawaii. And it's no question they've locked in their spot in the conference championship, but we seem to have the tiebreaker over both Penn and Harvard. This has set us up for another hard game to win, though. We're facing a former team that I have built, and I'm not having a good time. We have scored 10 points against this defense throughout this entire matchup. Zach Slaughter being back and healthy might not even be the best thing that could happen for this team, though. I can't believe we completed that. And there is still hope for a comeback in this one as we just beat them off the line so easily. I'm not sure where this was at in the first 3.5 quarters, but there is some hope, and we just have to make sure that we don't take a sack. I have got to make up for that last loss that we just faced. We should be able to bring them down right here. They are going to punt it. And we're very fortunate that Ben Harris got hurt in the 3rd quarter, so they had to bring out their backup. He didn't know where to go right there. Now we actually have a fighting chance against the Crimson. We're going to roll out, have a wide open receiver, and Traynham Bell's going to bring this one in. We're already going down to the 20. All right, a minute left on the clock now. I am trying to run out a little bit of it, but that might end up backfiring for us as we've got to at least complete a pass right here, and then we can start using timeouts. I still have no way of telling how many we actually have left, which is very concerning, but Allen's going to get loose, and he's in the end zone. That feels like game for us. We know that we have to get this ball out pretty quick, and I think we're going to be okay. It would take a lot for them to get into field goal range. That actually gets them pretty close, though. Can we make a tackle? All right, we're about to take down Harvard. All we have to do is prevent the Hail Mary from happening. I couldn't get in pressure in time, but that is gonna be short of the end zone. And we have beaten the team that I was rebuilding last season. This is what I wanted. There's some hope in the atmosphere. Zach Slaughter is doing amazing things. But if we're gonna make it to the conference championship, we are gonna have to beat Penn. That's another game I have to hop into. When I took over Columbia, I thought most of my time was gonna be spent on the recruiting side of things. There's even a 4-star that we could still get alongside all these 3-stars. But it turns out I have another team that might make it to an Ivy League championship, so we gotta win this. Well, after getting off to a 17-0 start, I thought we'd win this one easily, but we're down by 1 with 2 minutes left. And it is not Zach Slaughter's fault. He has thrown for almost 400 yards in this game, but right now we have to get one more field goal, and he's able to escape the pressure to run out of bounds. I don't want to even make any difficult reads at the end of this game. I don't want to risk throwing an interception and choking this this one away, so we're gonna avoid doing so. And after that last run from Savage, Penn started to use some of their timeouts. They think we're in field goal range. With 9 more yards, we definitely are now. We're gonna continue to run the ball, and I feel pretty comfortable settling for a field goal from here. I might have iced our own kicker though, but the clock was running down too fast. I had to burn a timeout, and now we're just gonna wait. Hope that is good enough to put us on to the conference championship. And we have Clemson's mascot celebrating for us. What on earth are they doing in Columbia? It is what it is. Zach Slaughter's probably going to get some transfer portal attention. But guess what? He's not leaving because Columbia's coach has this CEO ability called roster retention, family atmosphere. Players are less likely to transfer. I don't know how we keep on managing to make this game, but I guess there's only 8 teams in our conference. And we haven't really gotten a terrible draw yet. It looks like there are 6 teams that are going to be bowl eligible instead of the 5 we had last year. That's probably the max that we can get, though I can't consider this a Power 5 conference until we're rated above one of the bigger 4 conferences. And the only way that happens is if we keep on signing 4 stars. It would also help if we had a team make the playoffs, though. I just don't see a path for Princeton to get in. Even if they beat us, there's way too many schools that are ranked across the country. And that means we got to try our absolute hearts out to make sure that Columbia wins the Ivy League. They're the higher ranked team, so they've gotten to have the home field advantage, and we haven't played that well. But I was hoping that catch was at least reviewed because now it's 3rd and 10 and we're down. All right, this is a pretty big 4th and 13 right here. I can see they're going to get off that left side. I don't know how we're going to make it to the marker, which just means that they're going to continue to keep us out of the end zone in this game. It is so frustrating. They are staying in hurry up mode as well, knowing that they're just going to keep on running the football. And I'm about to bring everybody down, but this is where they've decided to throw it instead, which we just can't get over to. This is setting up extremely bad for us. I missed the sack, and they're about to get another big play. I was so frustrated I started to sim the defense, but there's a penalty and somehow a turnover, which works out for me. There's 4 minutes left in this game. We have beaten them off of the line over there with waiters, and we're going to get right back into this one. Whenever you need to just get a stop, you should probably sim. I am not going to do that, though. I want to feel like I've earned this comeback if we can actually pull it off. And there's no way. They've broken all the way to the crib. We might as well let them get in at this point. None of us are going to come close to catching them. And all of a sudden, simming our defense seems like a lot better of an option. How are they catching that? I know they're not going to make the same mistake of trying to press us again, so we're going to have to actually make good reads. We're still up. I don't know how. But this Columbia team has overcome a lot, so I believe in this team to come back again. 13 isn't sticking with us. Come on, give me that. You know what I like to do in this situation. I want to go for the 2-point conversion so we can win this game with a touchdown. Just in order for that to be a possibility, we are going to have to get a defensive stop versus them, and everything could have been locked up. They have now hurried it up to just sit here for the next 30 seconds. And the Ivy League's version of the Cincinnati Bengals are starting to frustrate me, but they literally threw straight at us. Where's the tackle? This game might have just ended right there. I don't know where they're going with this run. We are all over it again, struggling to bring this dude down. It literally took like 5 dudes just going full force into him. They're in field goal range. And just know I did my best to try and come back. They have centered it up. Princeton's gonna repeat as Ivy League conference champions. And I have a feeling that in the rest of this video, there's gonna be a lot of that, and there's gonna be a lot of Harvard winning, just going back and forth. How was this not there all game? No matter what I do right here, it doesn't matter too much. We're going to have to recover an onside kick if we still want to have a chance in this one. That's fitting. That is so fitting. I knew it wasn't there and I still hit that button. The entire summary of this season with Columbia can come down to me throwing interception after interception after interception whenever I didn't need to. There it is. Nick Stackhouse gets it done again. And I was rooting for him one season. Now I'm hating on him and he still has his senior year left. I am also not worried about this Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl. Who cares if we win it? There's a bigger problem. I forgot to fire Columbia's offensive and defensive coordinators, which means these guys are probably going to be stuck with them the rest of this video. Unless they take some huge strides forward whenever we're not controlling Columbia, they're never going to be that good. I can't even call this a collapse. It's just been self-implosion from me. If you take a look, Zach Slaughter was the 3rd best quarterback in the conference, but Nick Stackhouse is the clear favorite. I do find it pretty interesting, though, that every player that leads their team in stats is either a junior or a sophomore, so these players are going to be around for a couple seasons. There's Adonis Savage. And the #1 receiver in the Ivy League was Taylor Machila. I recruited him at Harvard last season. This kid's a true freshman. freshman scoring 19 touchdowns. We have ourselves the Ryan Williams, Jeremiah Smith combo of the Ivy League. Looking at our actual season stats for receivers, though, we had 3 guys put up over 800 yards. So I still have to consider that a pretty successful year, especially since our conference had 6 bowl games, though Princeton did not sniff the playoffs. I guess it's time for me to get revenge in the Scooters Coffee Bowl. But if there's anything these fans need to be concerned about, it's the recruiting class that isn't finished. If Columbia's gonna have more successful seasons after this, that's what they need. I don't know what happened here for Allen to get this open, but we're gonna tie it up. And there's only a few minutes left on the clock. I have not won a bowl game yet using these Ivy League schools, so this could be a new achievement here at Columbia. And if I've learned anything about this team, all we have to do is start sending dudes deep, and somebody is gonna manage to get open, though we can't fumble. Zach Slaughter is probably a bit better than you thought he would be because he is field general, which allows us to dissect the defense. And I love when it tells me exactly what they're running, though right here we're gonna have to avoid the sack and also make sure that this guy doesn't catch us. This is considered field goal range. This is considered exactly what I need to get my first bowl win, but I'm gonna get closer. I don't want to shank the kick. And I am a little bit worried that I don't have any timeouts left, so we're just gonna hope for the best. Well, Louisiana is starting to call them, so we're gonna have to punch this in because they still have all 3. But I'm sure we can make that happen. 3rd and goal, we just gotta go through. As long as we don't give up this Hail Mary now, we are gonna close out the season right with Columbia. It's smacked into their hands. They're saying the game is over, though. I don't think he caught it, but we've got to watch that back because I just thought we were going to overtime. Very confused how it's over, but congratulations to Zach Slaughter. And let's see what happens here. It literally went into his hands. How did he lose it? All right, we're going to have to take this one frame at a time because my brain is too slow. So this ball snaps into his hand. I mean, this is a weird way to hold on to it, but he has it. 2 hands on the football right there. And does his teammate end up knocking this out? No. I think he literally just dropped the ball. What is going on in an EA football game? He just dropped it out of his hands. Just dropped the game-winning touchdown. Or I guess it could have been the game-winning touchdown. Either way, you will not hear me complaining about it. We have taken this bowl game. And USC, one of the teams that beat Princeton, ruining their year, made a run to the championship, but they couldn't take down Georgia. That Princeton team makes the playoffs if they're 1-11. Anyway, looking at some of these bowl game scores, we are going to lose all of those games besides Harvard, us, and Princeton. And I almost completely forgot to check the team season stats. We averaged 3rd in points per game. On the defensive side of things, the best defense was Princeton, Harvard, then Columbia, so we were the best 3 teams. And at some point, the players leaving was going to look rough. It seems like Columbia's losing a lot of good players, including guys that could get drafted. Even though he only rushed for like 500 yards, Adonis Savage is the first player we've seen get drafted. And I'm still checking in on some of our other teams. Harvard did not have somebody get drafted. If we scroll down to Penn, they didn't either. Princeton did put that tight end into the first round. But those were the only 2 players to go to the NFL out of the Ivy League, so I'm surprised we have some more 4-stars that we could bring in through the transfer portal. A lot of these players are just going to be 2-star freshmen, but they seem to end up being pretty useful in the future. Of course, we're still going to try our best to get those 4-stars too. And I thought correctly guessing a hard sell would mean we'd win this battle, but I think Notre Dame's still getting Von Kane. It's not like we'd get to use him anyway, though. We did bring in Dennis Hull, who was a 4-star transfer. So I feel like that should make up for the loss on these other 2 prospects that just wanted to play for bigger schools. By National Signing Day, I almost signed a full class, but we did lose out on 1 other transfer, so we only signed 34 prospects. And looking through the player dev traits, there's some interesting guys in here. Cam McCaffrey might not be a star. He only is impact dev, so he might not develop well, but Nate Waller has elite dev, and so does AJ Chubb, this linebacker. Those are names that could put Columbia on the map, but I have been shocked. Both Princeton and Harvard signed a better class than the one I put together. How is the computer out recruiting me? I have done good for these programs. Through the transfer portal, Princeton was able to get 2 4-star transfers. They also just got a lot of 3-stars. And if anybody in the Ivy League needs my help at the moment, it's probably Dartmouth. They just signed 1 3-star and the rest are 2. I'm about to find out what my next landing spot's gonna be, but I can't say we've left Columbia in a much better spot. They're an 83 overall. They might not even compete for a conference championship. And that's because some of their key pieces just didn't improve that much this offseason, including Zach Slaughter. In fact, taking another look at Dartmouth, who went 3-9 last season, they have a junior quarterback that's an 88 overall, plus a halfback that's an 88. And I know we're probably not going to land Princeton again, but I do want to update that Nick Stackhouse got up to an 88 overall, and the running back Mick Leanhart's up to a 94. Wherever this lands, I think I'm going to have a pretty hard time winning the conference, and it's going to be Yale. This one could be interesting. Their head coach is already a level 50, and they're coming off back-to-back seasons where they've made it to a bowl game, but they've lost. But I do not like where they have maxed out their head coach at. We have talent developer, we have recruiter, and we have motivator. What What I learned in another rebuild is some of this stuff in talent developer just doesn't help out the way you'd want it to, but maybe Yale's players will progress a lot faster because a lot of the coach points, the extra ones, ended up going into the master motivator tab. I feel like the computer really over recruits though, because this is another situation where I'm gonna have to cut 20 players, but it is probably best in the long run. I'm able to micromanage everything dumb the computer does. We only have 7 seniors on this team, so I'm not gonna have a big recruiting class, and we're probably gonna treat it like the Harvard situation where I just try to recruit as many 4-stars as I possibly can. I did quite a bit of redshirting before checking out this roster, where I've noticed we have an 84 overall offense with a quarterback and a halfback that are some of the best players on this team. Ask me if I'm excited to use Matt Sumner though. You would think so. 89 overall? No, this kid is an 85 speed running back. I want nothing to do with that garbage, though I am proud of Madison Boyce getting up to an 89 overall with some solid accuracies. He has 99 short throw accuracy. To be honest though, Yale is going to have a hard time ever being the championship team out of the Ivy League because they're locked into playing Notre Dame and Cal every season. Those do become winnable games though if we can get some of these 4-star prospects in here, and even this 5-star, I'm deciding to go after a quarterback. Pat Claybooks would be the best quarterback to ever touch the Ivy League. He is Platinum Field General as a freshman, and I'm not sure if it's even possible to land him, but it's time to start out this year against Appalachian State. Not only would we beat them 34-16, but we beat FCS Northwest 70-0 the next week. And to my surprise, Madison Boyce might not be the best player on this team. It could be Talia Deng. He's our wide receiver that had 10 carries for 155 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then he also had 2 receiving touchdowns, which means he scored 5 in one game. I don't know how this is the kid that is making that happen. He's got himself a bowl cut still. He only has 82 speed, but he's performing pretty well, and I think we should see how we do on the road at UMass. In recent years, I've focused on the Ivy League games, but it's also important that we perform whenever we play some of our non-conference opponents, because that's how we prove that the Ivy League can stack up versus anybody, and on this 3rd and 17, we're not making it. Madison Boyce is not much of a scrambler, but he should be able to complete this pass. And although every team I use is very unique and different in this rebuild, they have different playbooks and teams, my level of aggressiveness will always stay with each program, and you know what? We can still scramble this in. We've already gotten off to a great start here on the road, and we have a 17-point lead with 30 seconds left. No matter what they do, this one is over. I would like to keep them out of the end zone though. We're just not going to be able to, and that's going to make our defense look a little bit worse throughout the rest of the year whenever we look at the team stats. Offensively though, Madison Boyce might have the best season we've had with a QB yet, and when it comes to some of these prospects, I think the 4-stars, we're going to sign most of them besides this linebacker. Oregon's taken over, but 5-star Pat Claybooks, the quarterback, is going to be harder to land because his hard sell just isn't that impressive. Don't get me wrong, this might be the best school grades we've worked with in recruiting so far. It just doesn't seem like it's going to be enough to get a 5-star for the first time. However, this is the first time the Ivy League seems to be having success outside of conference play. We actually have 2 teams ranked inside the top 25. Princeton is number 3, and this might seem great. It's shown that our conference can actually be competitive, but it is who we have to face next with Yale, and one of these 2 teams is not going to be undefeated. You have to keep in mind, this is the Princeton team that is supposed to have their best chance at winning a championship that we're now up 14-0 on, and I think we're about to make it worse for them. Not only have they not been able to score, but we're going to have 21. At least I think we will. Matt Sumner should have been able to fight his way in, and I refuse to believe we're actually not going to pick up this 4th and goal. Jet touch pass to Deng is going to result in us going down. Well, that was pretty disappointing, but Nick Stackhouse has only put up 7 points versus us in this game. On 3rd down, we're going to pick him off with Kearse. That is a huge stop for Yale. We're still up by 14 points, and we're in a good spot. I ran out as much time as I could before they've gotten the ball back. They're going to throw us another interception, and I think this one is over. This was a defensive victory for us here at home. We just held the number 3 team in the country to just 7 points. But I think we all know that Princeton's probably a bit overrated. I am also not seeing the commitment of a 5-star quarterback. But we're still in the lead for Pat Claybooks, and besides this 4-star linebacker choosing Oregon like we predicted, we signed every other 4-star we targeted. I was hoping that we'd be ranked after a win like that, but it's not the case. Though I think I made the right decision just simming against Penn. We won this one 38-15. This Yale team is better than I thought they would be, and I feel comfortable simming all the way up until we play Harvard, who's ranked on the road. That is right, our conference still has 2 teams inside the top 25, but Columbia did lose, so they have fallen outside of it. And considering it was against Brown 34-0, I'm not sure how they got ranked in the first place. The main issue we're going to run into whenever trying to raise raise our conference prestige is every single program has to be good for it to go up. Because our conference doesn't have many teams in it, we're bound to beat up on each other, but as you can see, we just won 51-5, and we're number 20 in the country, 7-0 going into this game against Harvard. Neither them or Princeton's taken over Ivy League play though. I'm surprised that we have 3 teams still ranked inside the top 25. And just seeing all these schools up here from our conference in the polls makes me feel like we can actually have a lot of success in this video. It might be hard to tell from a distance, but if you take a closer look, we didn't sign this 4-star. He went to BYU. Their logo just looks very similar. But I do have good news about Pat Claybooks. We have signed the first 5-star in Ivy League history. At least I thought we did. Apparently both Harvard and Princeton have also somehow signed a 5-star. I don't know what's happening. We're only in season number 4. But these other schools are recruiting far better than I ever thought they would. Harvard signed a 5-star running back. Princeton signed a 5-star corner. So that's what I'm keeping up with right now. And teams aren't always successful after I leave them because Columbia is only signing 2 stars. They have the 113th best class and we were just controlling them. They're going to drag this conference down, but now we have to find out if we can actually win this rivalry on the road. And we have reverted back to our 1800s ways. Neither team has scored a touchdown so far. The field goal streak is not ending on that drive either. They've stopped us, so we're just going to have to hit this to go up by 3, even if that was a much closer call than I wanted it to be. Then Harvard got their touchdown though, which means we are trailing by 4 points. And I don't like that we're handing this off because I know we're not picking it up. We are out of field goal range though, so I knew that we were always going to go for this right here. But that drop is not great. Now we have them on a 3rd and 8. And they're going to come away with the catch. We just dove and missed. This kid's going to be able to walk himself into the end zone. We're undefeated. We can't be having a collapse against Harvard. This was our season to make something happen with Yale. But maybe it's just not going to work out. It's now 4th and 10, and they're going to be able to pick that off. I needed to wait another second before throwing it. I just didn't have the time. Nothing else was even open there. They're just trying to run out the clock, but we're not going to let them do it. And on the other side of the 2-minute warning, we still have a slight chance. Now, we're going to have to score a touchdown quick without using any of our timeouts, so I'm just throwing this football up. I feel like we got a good opportunity to hold on to it. And McGarry gives us a great size advantage. This is cover 2, but it's going to be out of reach. That was not the throw that we needed right there. We have to make sure that we at least move the chains, and that's what we have done on this next one. But coming back at this point in the game almost feels impossible, and we didn't have time. 3rd and 19, minute left on the clock. I'm just going to throw this ball up and see if we can come down with it. I think we should be able to. He hangs on, and all of a sudden, there's still a little bit of hope. We can come back against Harvard and actually get this win versus them. Here we go. 2nd and goal. We're going to just step up, scramble our way in. And I also think we should go for the 2-point conversion. I have the exact same plan for this play that I just did on the last one. Once again, we're going to run in with Boyce. And this one's on our defense right here. We got to make sure that they don't get a big run. That was a little bit scary. It's now 2nd and 4, but we're all over him. And I've done all that I can. I've brought everybody down, and it's going to work. Okay, now they're punting it back to us. We still have about 30 seconds left. Lopez is going to have to make this first dude miss. And if I learned anything from that last drive, it might just be that we should be throwing this up to McGarry. How did he catch that? We're going to lose this one to Harvard. We've just lost our first game of the season. We would have had a huge gain right here as well. The problem is that ball just wasn't thrown where it needed to be. They caught it without looking at it. We can't be too upset about this result though. It's not the end of the world. We're still having a much better year with Yale than we thought we would. And it's Harvard's backup for last season that's taken over as their starter this year. The difficult games aren't ending anytime soon for us either. We're about to face Brown, who's sitting at 4-0 in conference play. And this is the last team that I want to have to deal with facing right now. Of all the Ivy League schools in this video, this is probably the one I'm least familiar with. I'm hoping we don't even have to touch them in this video. We fumbled to them in the 3rd quarter, and it's been a defensive game like that, but there's no reason for us to drop the ball there. If they win this one, they're probably going to be ranked, so it's a huge matchup for them, and I just can't get to that ball. I saw it a second too late. This is not the position I want to be in. I can tell you that right now. But Ben McGarry is beating the press over on the left side of the field, and the tall kid isn't just tall, he's also fast. We needed that. It is now 3rd and 7. I don't want to give this up. I feel like they might scramble. They've tested my user again. It has its good moments. It has its bad moments. It's had a couple bad moments in this game. That one's not my fault. And this is the last game I'm playing this season. I have had too many problems. We should have gotten the sack right there. They just got a touchdown out of that. EA is doing everything they can to help Brown win this game. But I know that Ben McGarry is hot, so I'm looking over on his side of the field again. I saw he had that outside leverage, and look at this kid go. He is a superstar. This kid's got a high motor, and he is deceptively fast. And we just have to trust our defense to lock up against Brown. I think we're going to be able to on this play. They're running backwards. All right, 4th and 24. They've got to find a way to pick this one up. I thought I could just pass rush in. I mean, they took a check down. And look at what we're coming out in with Yale. We're going to do a little halfback toss, but we're not going to be fast enough to go to the outside. That was probably my fault right there. They've ran commit on 3rd and 9 though, and sure enough, it is Ben McGarry that is gone to the crib. We handled this game against Brown perfectly. We're going to win it 31-20. We're going to stay inside the top 25. And to think that Ben had 4 catches and every single one of them turned into a touchdown. A performance like that is always going to win you National Offensive Player of the Week. But we have an issue. We've already hopped into like 4 games this year, and we still have a few tough ones left on our schedule. I'm not feeling good about any of them, but I'm going to sim them all besides our one against Notre Dame. And at the moment, I want to think that we're locked into the Ivy League Conference Championship, but I'm not 100% certain. It does not help that against Columbia, we lost 27-3, and my expectations for the rest of the season just went out the window. We are going to win Player of the Game versus Cal, though, which I thought mattered, but it didn't. We played a non-conference opponent, and they beat us by almost double the score. That means whatever happens against Notre Dame's probably going to be even worse. But I guess it doesn't matter if we still make it to the Ivy League Conference Championship. There has been a 4-way tie for first place, and it looks like both Brown and Princeton got the short end of the stick, though Princeton's ranked number 2 in the country with 2 losses. I was gonna say that is so far from realistic, but apparently they just won by 17 points at USC, and a lot of these teams have 3 losses, so it might be deserved. We've also become very gifted at signing the 4 stars that we're recruiting, and if you take a look at this class so far, we have 12 of them, plus that 5-star prospect, and also a few 3 stars that I am going after. Byram Dunham was just my insurance in case we didn't sign the 5-star quarterback. I thought he would do decent there, but now he won't be needed, and it's my time to decide if I want to fire either of these coordinators. There is no way that is happening though. They are both maxed out. They have everything in motivator, tactician, and recruiter. That's exactly what we need with Yale's head coach, since he has nothing down there in tactician. And I know we've set up another program to be good moving forward, but it would be even better if we won the conference championship. I have managed to make it to this game every single year in this video so far, but this has been a really rough one for us here on the road. It is 20-0. We haven't been able to score. We are now on a 4th and 3, and the jet touch pass is going to just work out for us. I wasn't sure whether or not Ben could turn that corner fast enough, but he did just enough for us right there, and we don't stand a chance. Harvard would get that stop, then they'd go down the field and score yet another touchdown. We've just struggled, and we'll see if there is still any little bit of hope here at the end. I'm throwing it up just because of the size mismatch. We are trying to overcome a 3-possession deficit, though they keep on leaving Law open, and I actually like where we're at on the field right now. We just need enough time to hit our slant. It is my duty to do as best as I can with each team I get for each year in this rebuild, but it's taken us too long to get Harvard off the field, and they're hitting this kick. Just like in the regular season, I think we're gonna fall short against our rivals, though we have to try and beat them deep on the other side too. And I don't have the patience to try and beat them with some shorter routes because they also swat those down. I don't like playing in the road. I don't like playing in the rain. This game's been a bad combo of both of them, though we're getting a huge run out of Boyce. And I don't like to come up short during multiple comebacks in one season, so I'm still gonna go for it here as we snag this one in. I think ever since realizing how good 4 verts can be, I've become a 4 verticals merchant, though we are gonna run a different play right here for a touchdown, and I know exactly what I'm doing on the 2-point conversion. If our drag is open, we're just gonna take it. This is for the Ivy League Conference Championship. We cannot lose against them, and I have brought everybody down to try and stop the run right here, but we're gonna have to make that tackle. All right, here we go. It's 3rd and 8. I'm a little bit surprised that they're throwing it. They're also rolling out. I'm afraid that he might be able to run for the first down, and Rob Dombrowski has done it again. He's gotten Harvard the win over us. I tried with both Columbia and Yale the past 2 years, but neither of them get to take home that trophy. And some of you know a thing or two about incognito. Oklahoma's quarterback had 47 touchdowns, over 4,000 passing yards, so that's one of the most impressive season performances we've seen yet. I don't want to play in the Scooters Coffee Bowl again. There is so many other bowl games we could get with this conference. The first round of the college football playoffs for Princeton, and we also have a team, Dartmouth, playing in bowl week number 2. That's 6 bowl teams out of the Ivy League, and Harvard was so close to being the 5th at-large bid, though Virginia Tech got it instead. On the All-American side of things, you're going to see Nick Stackhouse up there for Princeton as a senior. I'm expecting a lot of other teams to be up here besides Yale. We weren't the best team in our conference. And interestingly enough, a lot of freshmen from Columbia who I recruited last season are on this list for them. That makes me feel good. It is time to take a look at all the quarterbacks in our conference though, and I guess you could say that our quarterback was just as good as Princeton's. Nick Stackhouse stacks up to Madison Boyce. I did notice that our completion percentage was much worse though. I've also noticed that 4 of the 8 starting quarterbacks in this conference are seniors, including the worst one on Penn. He's also a senior. That's pretty disappointing for Steve, because even though he's 5'11", he came in with star dev and he also had uncapped accuracy. There's still potential in the Ivy League. Matt Sumner was the second best running back, right behind Dartmouth's. And then for the first year, we did not have a 1,000-yard receiver in the entire conference, but Yale had the best 2 up here. That is a huge shock. Then taking a look at team stats, we were like 0.1 and 0.2 points per game behind Brown and Princeton. All 3 of us were up there. Defensively, we did not have as good of a defense as Princeton did. But I think this conference can be super proud about the fact that we put 6 teams into bowl games this season. That has not happened in this video so far, so we have to make sure that we go out and win as many of them as we can. But Coastal Carolina went 9-3, so it's not like they had a bad season themselves. In fact, they've played us pretty well. It is all tied up at 9 with a couple minutes left. We're gonna go for the end zone right here. But if we're gonna beat them, we are gonna have to get a stop, and I cannot believe that they've run the ball on 4th down. There's also a flag. It is against Coastal. The kid that is celebrating had a holding penalty, and that's really gonna hurt them, because if they don't pick up this 4th and 13, it's all over. I can't believe they just threw it straight at me. They should have known we were coming away with that interception. The Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl is gonna belong to the Ivy League for the 2nd season in a row. And this is not a great send-off stat line for Madison Boyce. Just checking in on Princeton as well, they ended up losing to Virginia Tech by 8 points in the first round. And that's gonna be it for Nick Stackhouse. We're gonna find out whether or not he gets drafted. I think without tactician boost, he's only like an 85 though. There it is. You can see his true overall on this screen. He actually had a better junior season than senior year. And checking in on how some of the other Ivy League schools did in their bowl game, Harvard finished number 16 in the country, beating Boston College by 1. Brown took down Clemson by 5. Arkansas beat Columbia. And Dartmouth ended up losing to UTSA by 7. Of course, the most important one was still that playoff game that Princeton couldn't win. But we still have 6 seasons for these teams to have chances at success. I think we're going to have more than 1 player drafted. I got to try and convince this kid to not transfer out. It didn't work. But either way, Yale's not losing too much, and if Madison Boyce is a 7th round quarterback, that means Nick Stackhouse isn't getting drafted since he's 2 overalls lower. Mick Leanhart did go in the 2nd round though. I like to keep tabs on other teams. This is boosting up our conference. And actually, to my surprise, pretty much every team in our conference, besides Harvard, ended up putting at least 1 player into the NFL. You can see that our conference ranking is starting to rise. It's not above the Big 12 yet, but we've at least jumped over the Pac-12 with their 2 teams. And there's not much left for me to do while controlling Yale, but there's 1 transfer we're going to try to go after. The rest of them just aren't good. This one's definitely going to come down to the wire. It could be either us, Cal, or Washington that wins. But in the end, one of his 3 motivations was academic prestige, so this was a no-brainer. One of the only battles we lost this season was actually on a 3-star prospect. But there wasn't a single elite development in this class, and Pat Claybook's coming in with impact is actually pretty disappointing. He is still the best quarterback to ever get recruited to the Ivy League though, and I noticed that Columbia signed 3 4-stars, so they're actually having a bit of success after my departure. That was very unexpected, but it is nice to see. I think they're going to be a solid program for us going forward. And it seems like Pat Claybooks could play other positions, but we're going to make him a 78 overall freshman quarterback. It looks like he's going to have to wait at least another year to start though. Taking a look at Yale's training results, they're an 85 overall. They have some good players on this roster. And I can tell you right now, there are some teams that I am hoping we do not land on. Dartmouth was probably one of them. We are going over to the Big D though. Their coach is a level 39. He's from Hawaii, and the best season they've had in this dynasty was 7-6. They've made it to multiple bowl games, but they've never won one. I think we're going to be able to turn things around though, because as I'm making my roster cuts, I've noticed they have a 91 overall quarterback. That should only rise if Carson Fryer has some stuff inside tactician on the quarterback position. We need to upgrade it a couple more times. But we have been set up with our best quarterback that we've gotten yet, and taking a look at some of these other players, we also have a 96 speed Antonio Creed at running back who's only a junior. These coordinators aren't fully maxed out either, but if they fully upgrade themselves over the next 5 years, they're going to be solid. And I was liking what I was seeing so far until I looked at the receiving room. This is probably the weakest position group. I can see why that's one of their team needs. Pretty much every position is. They just just don't have a good setup for the future at the moment. But taking a look at their school grades, they look very solid, so I think we're going to be just fine. I even think it's worth it that alongside these 4-star recruits, we try and get another 5-star quarterback into the Ivy League. Columbia's also in the running. And I think we have a great pitch to make because somehow our quarterback is projected to be in the Heisman race. I think Luis is going to have a hard time winning it though. He's just a former 3-star recruit. We know that his receivers aren't the best, but look at his accuracy stats. I really want to get excited for this season, but knowing that we have to play at both Alabama and then at Georgia to end the year, I know that we're going to struggle. And it's a shame I've built up other teams in our conference so good because I don't think we're going to be able to win games, even these. My goal is not making the Ivy League championship this year. It's simply winning a bowl game. And a road win against Alabama would be a very quality win for the conference, which is going to be hard to pull off, but we have already been able to score 7 points, and that ball is put perfectly right where it needs to be. We're going up 14-7 here in Bryant-Denny Stadium. You see those fans? They're disappointed. We haven't even been able to hot route throughout this entire game, but we've made the throws that count, and that is another one, but it's dropped. Why does it have to rain alongside playing on the road? It's like they want it to be as hard as possible, especially since Alabama scored immediately after. We now have to pick up this 3rd down, and I don't think we're going to be quick enough. We break a tackle. Hang on, look at that. Luis has actually given me hope here at Dartmouth. I'm actually enjoying playing with them just because of one player. But to keep this drive alive, we're going to have to pick up a huge 3rd and 9, and I know we can do that with his legs. That'll work. This would probably be one of the biggest non-conference wins the Ivy League has seen throughout this video. And I think it's more important that we get this instead of just beating up on other teams inside our conference. That does not prove that we can compete with the best of the best, but a win like this would. We're taking another sack. And the 37-yarder was already hard enough to hit, so I know this one's probably not going in. We are so fortunate though that with a few minutes left in this game, we are still only down by 4. And I'm gonna need enough time to get this ball out on 3rd and 4, or we could just scramble because that's what works best. The biggest problem in this game is getting our players open and then having them catch the ball. And since we don't have any standout receiving talents, that's gonna make this team not as fun to play with throughout the year. Though right here, Demetrius Biggers is going to take us to the 20. There's still plenty of time left on the clock as well. Right here, I wanted to throw it to our crosser, but I've learned my lesson from previous seasons. They would have probably played that ball, and come on. With a guy that has 95 accuracy for like everything, I didn't know a red meter was even possible. We're not going to be able to pick up this 4th and 10. I'm panicking. He is not quick enough to just run back around Alabama. We can't run circles around them. We're going to lose. Although it seems like our offense has bounced back the next week against an FCS school. I've experienced the bad receiving core. I can see why we have to sign a bunch of them in this class, and looking at the schedule, Princeton's number 8 in the country, but Harvard fell out of the top 25. After throwing an interception and losing to Western Michigan by 6, I think we know our quarterback's not winning the Heisman, which is why I'm thankful recruiting seems to be going this well, besides the fact that since our championship contender grades dropped a little bit lower, we've been locked out of a couple players. It was bound to happen, and I'm not expecting us to have success against UMass either. But even with a good result over them, it doesn't matter that much to me because Columbia beat us 50-13. This Dartmouth roster was not set up for success. I didn't want the wheel spin to land on it. I mean, Zach Slaughter's playing out of his mind for a senior quarterback while ours throws 2 interceptions. Then for the more important part, recruiting, we've been locked out of the 5-star quarterback. Tennessee stole both of the gym receivers from us. We've also lost some of these other players to schools like Jacksonville State. And even though we've made 5 4-star signings, including 3 receivers, I'm just upset seeing these battles be lost. So I've refreshed our board. I've put more 4-stars on there and our final shot at getting a QB. Bobby Nestor is the only 4-star out there still considering our school, so I don't care if he's a bust. But since he is, I also had to scout some 3-star options to find one for us, and it's a shame that this is going to be stolen away from Cornell. He had them at number 1 on his board originally, and they're actually 4-3 despite being one of the worst teams in this conference over all these years. All of our teams besides us have 4 wins or more. Every single one of these Ivy League games is just going to hurt our conference more now. And I thought I'd have zero interest playing with Dartmouth, but they just won 42-24 over Penn, and Luis is trying to rebound back. We also have gotten some coach points available, and I am going to put it into the quarterback recruiter position. I want to put more hours on those kids, which might not even matter because Oregon just decided they wanted to go after Bobby Nestor. Every week, each one of these results matters because, as you can see, we have 3 teams now inside the top 25. But I think we all know that Princeton, Yale, and Harvard are bound to play each other at some point. We are also going to be stuck facing off against some of these these teams, Princeton is undefeated, number 3 in the country. And just taking a look through their roster, they've not lost a step after losing some of their best players ever. It is my fault that they've become this good, and I don't think there's any coming back. Once again, our terrible receiving core has been the main issue in this game. We've got to make this catch right here. We don't. And on 4th and goal, I might just try to run this one in with our quarterback, but our offensive line can't hold up for a second. I made Princeton too powerful. They might just run through the entire Ivy League this season. They beat us by 18 points. But next season, they're going to lose a senior quarterback again. If their non-conference schedule ends up being easier, though, they're always going to have good years. Meanwhile, we have to play at number 3 Georgia to end our season. And not only do I not think it's possible for us to make our conference championship this year, but I don't think we're going to make it to a bowl game. It took 5 seasons, but we are finally struggling with one of the teams the wheel has given us. And it seems like simulating against Brown and Cornell worked out for us, though those were super close. We have 3 ranked teams left on our schedule, though, and I'm hoping at least one Ivy League team makes it to the playoffs again, that we don't fully self-implode as a conference. But I have a bad feeling that's exactly what's going to happen, and I can see that we're going to lose some more of these battles for the 4 stars. We can't consider this a successful season unless we beat Yale, get ourselves a spot in a bowl game. And surprisingly, we're in a spot where we could beat the former team we were controlling, as we're only down by 3, and we come away with this catch. We are already in field goal range, so at least I know we should be able to send this one to overtime, though I'm hoping for more. And I probably missed a read right there, hoping that we could force it farther down the field, which we are going to do. Straight into the hands of the defense. Why did I think we could lob it over him? I worked so hard for this to be a competitive game, and we're about to blow it. Wait, we forced a fumble. We got the ball back. We have been bailed out. Hang on. This is actually huge. I just have to make sure I don't mess this up again. That's going to be dropped. This is going to be a pretty big 3rd and 10. I might just try to scramble because that is the only thing I seem to do right. And I don't trust a single receiver that's out there on the field right now. I want to get the touchdown. I want to win this game and not take it to overtime instead. It's popped up that it's going to be cover 2. Field general's been pretty useful right here. It's man-to-man cover 2, and Demetrius Biggers is going to the 1. All right, you know who we're leaning on right here. It is our quarterback. QB draw up the middle, and that's a tutty. That was stressful, and we just did all of that with a backup quarterback. It was quite the battle. And I think I forgot to mention that Connor Denson was out there. He had 2 interceptions, no passing touchdowns, but we still won. What I'm realizing is Luis has been out with a dislocated ankle for the last few games, ever since we lost to Princeton. And ever since then, we've been on a 3-game winning streak with junior quarterback Connor Denson, who is much worse. I don't know how this kid's getting it done, but Dartmouth is in good hands next season whenever we leave them. And he's literally throwing for 2 interceptions a game, but it doesn't even matter. Even if Yale was overrated, we beat a top 25 team. Now we're playing number 7 Harvard. And I just realized Dartmouth could still make it to the Ivy League Conference Championship if we beat them here. This is crazy. I don't know how we end up in positions like this, but we have to try and take advantage of it. There was apparently too much tape on our backup quarterback, though, because he has had himself a rough day. And even this wasn't considered a catch. I had to challenge it, but I don't think it was. If we don't pick up this 4th and 15, this game is over. That pass is going to be batted down. And this is about what I expected. Harvard controlled the entire game until they put in their backups. In the long run, though, this is probably better for the Ivy League. Rom Dombrowski is still there. And I don't see how we're going to take down number 15 Georgia. If you think about it, 41-19 with a backup quarterback could have been much worse. And I think the Ivy League has a lot to be proud about at the moment. We have 3 teams finishing inside the top 25. That is almost half of the programs in our conference. Now, I could fire these coordinators, but I don't think I'm going to, since they're both tacticians. And Louisiana Tech was able to win the Heisman Trophy, so another small school is starting to have some success. Our bowl game is going to be the Scooters Coffee Bowl, which we just can't seem to escape. But since we didn't play in the conference championship for the first time, I should point out that Harvard lost it to Princeton by 7. They've also both somehow gotten into the playoffs. This would be an absolute disaster for the SEC and the Big Ten. I'm seeing like half of the teams in here as small schools. And the rankings in this game are very clearly determined by how good you were last season too, because Harvard at 10-3 is ranked above 13-0 Colorado State. By early national signing day, I should probably admit that like half of the battles on the remaining 4 stars, I lost. But I still brought in 9 at Dartmouth of all the schools, and I'm surprised to see Cornell up here with Harvard in the top classes in our conference. The bottom teams also seem to be getting better at recruiting, so maybe the playoff spots have inflated our conference a bit. Now we have to take down Georgia State. And it's a miracle we still have a chance to achieve our season goal of winning a bowl game. With our starting quarterback back out there in the lineup, he is able to dissect this D, and I'm not surprised we're playing this well against Georgia State. We should have always won this game. This stop should do it. I consider this progress for the Ivy League. We continue to own the Scooters Coffee Bowl, and I think Luis will still be a first-round draft pick. If it was based on his stats, even when he was healthy, I can't say he'd deserve it, but it's based on overall in this game. Looking at some of these other quarterbacks, though, the conference was dominated by Harvard and Princeton. If you look at the passing yard totals, it wasn't even close. That's a 1,000-yard jump, and also Harvard's quarterback, Rob Dombrowski, only had 1 interception. Then on the rushing side of things, we're going to see Yale's Matt Sumner. We had him last season. Also, Alex Rowland is up there too, but we barely ran the ball, so these stats are not going to look good. And on the receiving side of things, I think we're going to dominate the Ivy League. Never mind, this is the best the conference has ever looked. We have 5,000-yard receivers. You can see that they're going to come from Princeton or Harvard, though. And just knowing that 92 overall Maurice Tolson was Princeton's 3rd best receiver statistically is insane. Between them and Harvard, they deserve to take most of the first-team All-American spots. Dartmouth still had a couple of them on defense, and I knew our offensive rating was not going to be high. Our defense probably won't be up there either. Harvard and Princeton dominated here, and looking at points per game, we gave up the most in our conference. This was our roughest season. Looking at the playoff results, Harvard beat Washington. They lost in the second round. Princeton got demolished by Michigan. And in the other bowl games, Yale beat Virginia while Columbia lost to Pitt, but I think we earned our spot as the 5th best conference for sure. We even got Dartmouth up to 3.5 stars this season, probably because they have some players going on to the NFL. They won a bowl game, but they are losing some talent. This kid wants to leave, and I can't blame him, but the Ivy League stock has to keep on rising. I mean, we just had a first-round quarterback. Princeton also put 3 players on to the NFL. Most of the other teams didn't put anybody into the NFL, though. Yale is the last one I have to check, just because I know they had some players that were higher overalls. And those tactician boosts are probably helping these teams out massively, but the transfer portal options are extremely disappointing. I am still going to do all I can to bring in a deep recruiting class. It's just going to take a lot more effort to sign all these guys, and I'm pretty sure I didn't miss on a single one. This might not compete with signing the number 11 recruiting class at Yale last year, but it's pretty good for Dartmouth, and with one player having elite development, that's more than we had last season. I'm not worried about Princeton and Harvard maintaining their spots in the conference. They keep on signing top 25 classes. There were 3 top 25 classes in the Ivy League this year, and it's starting to seem like schools like Brown might be the ones that need my help. I can't say that I did a perfect job at Dartmouth, but what I'm going to do is one of my final moves is max out the tactician tree as much as I can. We had 42 coach points to spend, and it just hit me. Antonio Creed must have gotten injured this season. I forgot about him completely, but he got to use a red shirt, so he still has 2 years left with an 83 overall team. That might translate to a better future than I was thinking. We have drawn Brown, not Harvard, and I'm afraid if I was hoping to have some success this next season, it's not going to come with the Bears. Their head coach, though, Adam Griffin's up to a level 50 architect, and this might be one of the most interesting coach builds I have ever seen. He must have put most of his points into this. From a coordinator perspective as well, they are very different, so I think what we have is a spread that covers all 3 categories, and I can even recruit a ton of freshmen because they are not at the max roster size. I'm signing a class of 35 3-stars. I'm also going to get rid of players that aren't going to have much use for us. This is me rebuilding Brown from the ground up. But I can tell you right now, even if our non-conference schedule looks pretty easy, I'm not going for a good season on the field. I'm going for a great recruiting class, and we finish up the year at Tennessee. The Ivy League's already gotten too good to have success with this team, even if the Big 12 is still rated above it. And I know I'm not going after 4 and 5 stars this year, just looking at some of these school grades. We probably only have like 400 hours to spend a week. We also have team needs at all of our offensive positions, not as many on defense. And I might have gutted this team a little bit too much because some positions like halfback still have numbers, but at wide receiver, we only have 5. I find it remarkable that there's even talent at the top of the roster. We have a sophomore right outside linebacker that's a 92. Besides that, all of our best players are seniors though. And at quarterback, we have to start JP Sampson because Marquez Rubin has 0 abilities. I've never seen that on a QB. Fortunately, I've already found a couple options, 3-star gyms we could bring in. I've also put some 4 stars on the board, but only because they had Brown as their number 1 school. Aside from that, you're going to see a bunch of players that have Brown as their first place school right off the rip, and I'm going to try to get some insta commits. They will insta commit if you offer them a scholarship. There's like a 10% chance. And although it hasn't happened yet, I know I've seen it happen in the past before. I'm not going crazy. It turns out though, not a single player was willing to insta commit to Brown. We literally offered out like 30 scholarships to kids that had Brown at first place. So my strategy to get us some early momentum has backfired, and with only 400 hours to spend a week, we can put points on basically 7 players. For now, we should probably take our attention over to our first game at Buffalo. JP Sampson has thrown not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 interceptions in this game. So I'm not comfortable comfortable with him ever throwing the ball again, and we're gonna break a tackle fighting for a first. It might be even better we didn't pick it up though. That's gonna allow us to burn through some more clock, because my hope is this can be the final drive of the game and we're gonna try to get a little bit more with Ruggs. Willie has taken like all the load in this game. His wear and tear is the only reason we're not going for a touchdown. And I knew he'd get subbed out eventually so we could have some fresh legs out there, but we're not getting in. They are really starting to stack the box to stop the run here. It's not gonna matter. And we might actually get the win with Brown. This is a better start to the season than I was personally expecting. The Hail Mary throw is gonna be about 10 yards short of the end zone, and it's gonna be very short-lived, but we're currently undefeated with like the one team I didn't want to control in the conference. I just don't see a bright future for this program, but that is literally only because I'm not a fan of their colors, red and brown. It's hard on the eye, but what I've learned is some of these hard sells are actually going to be pretty easy for us to recruit with, even the 4-stars. And it turns out 75 hours a week plus putting them on a visit week for a bye is enough to get all 3 of them, so that was worth the risk. We are also going to be 4-0 going into conference play. I simmed all these games in confidence, and now we're in a very good spot, but there's ranked teams coming up. All that the Ivy League really needs is these teams to win their non-conference games, because once we start beating up on each other, it won't affect the records that much if they're already ranked. So I can say I'm thrilled about how everything is going, but we're about to host number 14 Harvard. It turns out this has gone exactly how I thought it would. We have literally put up 10 points versus one of the best teams in the conference. And JP Sampson is not fun to use, but I feel like I need to show off these fields a little bit or else we're barely going to see anything from Brown this year. I will stubbornly admit, I like the logo at midfield. I also like some of the black alternate jerseys they have. I'm sure we'll wear them at some point. And I hope you're enjoying your JP Sampson gameplay, because I'm bored of making reads. I'm gonna start throwing up some balls like this one. Now I just have to imagine, what if we somehow pulled off this comeback in the final minute? And look at the crowd. Even all the fans are wearing brown. I don't know what I was expecting, but this onside kick is gonna not go far enough, even if we did get to it in time, which means the impossible comeback isn't happening. Even the committed screen with this colorway does not look good. And I was gonna root for Columbia to beat us, but they just lost their game last week, so they've fallen far down the rankings. They still came out on top though, 47-13. And Harvard must have lost another matchup because they're no longer ranked. Looking at these conference standings, we're at the bottom. Penn is not a team I could see winning the Ivy League, but they're currently sitting at 5-2. And I think we've taken them down if we won Conference Player of the Week, getting 2 interceptions. Never mind, it was 28-19. At least I can say I've been successful in cleaning up players that wanted to come to Brown in the first place. We've already signed 13. And I don't even want to know how bad it's going to be at number 4 Princeton. 45-13. This team is not making it to a bowl. Unless we somehow pick up some wins against Cornell, Yale, and Dartmouth, but I rebuilt Dartmouth and Yale recently, so their roster should be okay. If anything, playing against Cornell is like the one winnable game on our schedule, at least inside the Ivy League, which is why we're the 2 teams that have yet to win a conference game. I went to do some more recruiting though, and I'm very confused how our right end has flipped to Virginia Tech. I don't know when he decommitted. That bruises the ego a little bit, and we lost to both Cornell and Yale, so we have to beat Dartmouth and Tennessee to make it to a bowl. I just don't see it happening, though we do have 3 teams that are inside the top 14 at the moment. We also, for the first time, have somebody that's actually in the Heisman race, not just based off of overall. Taylor is dominating the country. And I remember when this kid had a crazy freshman year. I can't remember if I'm the one that recruited him or not, though. 98 speed works wonders, though I am noticing that his freshman stats look like they're much better than what he's doing as a senior, which means it's weird he's getting the recognition now, but if you take a look, you're gonna see Dartmouth also beat us. I meant to hop into that game, but because I didn't, I'm gonna have to make sure that we show off the black alternates against Tennessee. But playing this game on the road at Neyland Stadium, we're probably about to lose by 50. Maybe not though. With 3.5 minutes left, we find ourselves only down by 3 points. I'm questioning everything. And I should probably be kicking the field goal, but I audible do a halfback dive. I'm just glad we're still picking up the first down. Maybe the level of play in the Ivy League is better than I was thinking though, because we're gonna win all our non-conference games. Assuming Tennessee doesn't get this ball back in the final 2 minutes, and I'm not planning on that happening. We're even being bailed out by a penalty on the road. I'm surprised by that. But they could start using timeouts, so we're gonna have to score a touchdown, and I hit the wrong button. I thought that was my drag on the left side of the field. The home field advantage is working. But the Volunteers have also kindly let us run down some more clock before kicking our 3. Now, if I shank this, I will never forgive myself. I think I've put it far enough to the left. And why? Why do I have to make everything in this video so difficult? They're going to be able to run for a first down. I have absolutely zero confidence in us to stop the run. And are they running the same play 3 times in a row? We just need to bring more players over to this side of the field, and we got to wrap up short. That was an intelligent adjustment. There is still some hope for Brown to beat their quote-unquote rivals, at least according to the game. And that's got to be because this is the school that we replaced with Vanderbilt. This is not a great read, though. Academic prestige is going to carry us to victory, though. That's not the route he was supposed to be on. No, he was supposed to cut to the outside. The play it showed right before this had 81 on a streak. It had a flat route, and he would have gone to like the 20 on the sideline, not there. But I got fooled by the home field advantage. It worked for Tennessee, and I had 2 chances to win that game, and I couldn't. You don't watch me for the gameplay, that is for sure. Whenever I lose a match like that, though, I kind of just sit here and reflect for like a solid few minutes. I might have almost 1,500 hours on this game already. It doesn't matter. I think I've spent like 90% of that in the menus just sitting here recruiting. But even then, let's say I have 150 hours of gameplay. On Heisman, I still can't win. I might win a lot, but not enough. This team should not be sitting at the bottom of the Ivy League. We could have done better than Cornell at least. Harvard is up to number 11 in the country though, and they're not in the conference championship. This is kind of massive for the Ivy League. I don't think it matters who wins this game. Either way, we could be a 3-bid conference. I have also decided I am going to fire both of the coordinators that Brown has. And the reason for that is even though they're level 50s, I want to try and get some more tacticians in here. It looks like a Georgia quarterback won the Heisman Trophy. No small school love this season. And that's a little disappointing, especially because Harvard's receiver fell down. We know why because of his stats, but Princeton's quarterback Slade DeMarco was up there. Before we see who exactly made the playoffs from the Ivy League, we have to check out the season stats. Pat Claybrook started for Yale. And then I eventually noticed our quarterback, J.P. Sampson, threw 18 interceptions, but some of these other players we're about to go through, like Slade DeMarco, I recruited. He deserved to be up there in the Heisman race, even though he didn't have as many passing yards as Ethan McLeon over at Columbia. And then down here, Connor Denson was the 3rd best QB. We should have expected that based off of what happened at Dartmouth last year. Yale has the best running back again, but look at this. This is why Taylor was in the Heisman race. He had 10 rushing touchdowns. I'm also proud of Brown's running back, Willie Ruggs, for being a top 3 running back in the Ivy League, but the receiving stats don't look as good for the conference. We didn't necessarily contribute that much, even though we threw the ball a lot. These guys are seniors that are leaving us. But I will also be entering the transfer portal as far away as I can from this offense that was somehow not as bad as Cornell's was, and defensively we gave up the most points again. On the All-American side of things, the first team Ivy League actually means a lot now that we have this many teams that are ranked inside the top 10. And there was a lot of Princeton there, even though Columbia won the conference. They have a first-round bye, and they could be playing Harvard in the quarterfinals while Princeton's up at the top of the bracket. I don't know how we've managed to do it, but between them and then our 5 bowl games in week number 1, we are going to have 6 of our 8 teams bowl eligible. And I find it so funny. I could try and hire this level 17 coordinator that's a great tactician, or this level 50 coordinator that has everything maxed out and nobody interested. Then on the defensive side of the ball, Ty Jewell also has nobody interested. He's the tactician I wanted to get for Brown, which means I can at least feel confident that I'm leaving this team in a pretty good spot. Taking another look at the bracket, Princeton beat Tulane 45-10, while Harvard beat Florida by 4 points. And the only team from the Ivy League to lose in the postseason so far by 24 points to Miami was Dartmouth. I feel like Yale didn't have that great of a season, but they beat Clemson 48-17. And Pat Claybrook, as a sophomore, was able to throw for 5 touchdowns against them. If we keep putting this many teams into the playoffs, we're bound to win a championship at some point. Princeton beat Maryland, and Columbia lost to Harvard by 31. Our conference has 2 chances to get a team into the national championship. I wish I was controlling one of them right now. And there's no way. Harvard has done it. They won 45-17 against Boston College, while Princeton got kind of destroyed. The team that is somehow the 3rd best in our conference has made it all the way to the championship. They could have had an easier path than others. And just take a look at this tab right here. They won the defensive player of the game with 2 interceptions, but they lost to Georgia by 2 points in overtime, if you can even see the score. The logos get a little bit glitched out with Team Builder, but we'll take a look at the box score. And this is insane. They must have been trading 2-point conversions back and forth for a while if they scored that many points in overtime and had these types of stats. Alex Marable, Georgia's quarterback, threw 3 interceptions while having 5 touchdowns, while Harvard's Sakai Fenix just couldn't get it done. And with quite a few seniors. That could be the closest the conference comes to seeing a national championship in this video, but look at this. They have a 91 overall freshman. Dion Lamb has elite development. This kid is going to be special. He barely has any skill caps. And then, of course, Phoenix is only a sophomore, but if he ever leaves the program, they also have a 78 overall freshman. They don't need my help. The Crimson are set up pretty well themselves, though Brown's losing some of their best players after having a 4-8 season. We've got to convince this kid to come back to school. Devontae Rush is going to go to the NFL next season. That'll at least make Brown a bit more competitive going into next year. I want to see players get drafted out of the Ivy League. And there it is. Harvard's put the most players ever into the NFL in one season with 4 now. However, Princeton tied that record up by putting 4 in themselves. They also had a solid roster. And I know this is going to be kind of crazy to say, but if I take advantage of the portal recruiting transfer freshmen, I think Brown's roster could be there in like 4 years. For only having 400 hours during the regular season a week, I think signing 21 players is pretty impressive. I'm trying to max out the class with 35. And I'm pretty sure things have gone exactly how I wanted them to. Now, I did oversign at the quarterback position, so there's going to be a lot of ones they can choose between. They have a couple star dev options, even Blair McLeod transferred in. But they did get elite dev on at least one player, Nicholas Busby, so he's going to be a great target for them. And then for these 4 stars, they were just impact. Even if it's not the best class in the conference, because Harvard and Princeton have done so well in recruiting, 42 is good for Brown. And you can see how valuable those 3-star transfers really are. I think I should be more impressed though by the fact that Princeton brought in 10 4-star recruits on their own. I'm also not going to let what Dartmouth did slide. I'm not sure why this class wasn't ranked higher, but they signed 7 4-star prospects just a couple years from me removed recruiting for them. They're doing really good, while Columbia only signed 13 players, so their class was one of the worst 10 in the country. And I feel like that should be a disappointment for them since they just won the Ivy League, they made it to the playoffs, but now I have to move around all these players to different positions. It wasn't easy, but Brown is going to have an 84 overall roster next year. I feel like that is a little bit misleading, and I am very ready to see where this wheel takes us yet. We have yet to have a repeat team. Harvard would have been nice. It's going to be Yale. And ever since I won a bowl game with them back in 2029, they've been able to win 3 straight. I'm remembering that both of their coordinators were very, very overpowered, and then at the head coach position, they are all about talent developing. Plus, it just hit me that anybody that's a junior or a sophomore redshirt on this roster, I recruited, and I'm going to have to cut some other guys because they have way too many people on here. Even with my strategic cuts, it's saying this roster is an 82. It is a much higher overall than that because we have a 97 overall junior linebacker, and all these players that are starting are 85s or higher. It is time to check in on Pat Claybook's development. I was hoping he'd be a star in the Ivy League. His accuracy is like the only thing that hasn't grown much. And we also recruited Taven Peter, the best running back on this team. His speed needs to go up more than 94 though. Then at the receiving position, we brought in a couple of these guys, but not the best 2 that are on this roster. And just taking a quick look at our schedule, this could not be more disgusting with Princeton, Harvard, Columbia, and Notre Dame in a 5-week stretch. That is definitely going to be a difficult stretch, and we know that this team has 41 freshmen, so I'm going to redshirt them, and I'm also not going to recruit that large of a class. However, if we happen to sign a bunch of 4-star gyms, I can't complain about it. We should get as many in as possible. We're also in a battle with Harvard for this quarterback, Cole B. And let me tell you, whoever gets this kid is going to win the Ivy League for years to come in the future. It's almost as big as when the 5-star quarterback decided to sign with Yale. We're going to see how he does in his first game against Brown, my old team. And to be honest, I'm surprised JP Simpson didn't turn the ball over. No interceptions, improvement from him, but Pat Claybook's had more touchdowns, and we also won by 5 points. Then I realized we should be pretty confident simming all the way to the Columbia game, who's number 17 in the country, but after that, it looks like we have like 7 or 8 road games in a row. I didn't realize how hard of a schedule we had in front of us. It all starts right here. And interestingly enough, Harvard is 1-2 in non-conference play. They're struggling, and Princeton's also already lost once. I believe this team is good enough to win the entire conference this year, but we have to beat teams like Columbia, and this halfback screen on 2nd and 9 is just a huge play for us. It really stinks that Peter's so tired because he could be a beast. But instead, he got stopped on the halfback screen well short of the end zone, and on this 3rd and 6, we're going to have to slide. I don't know why he's even out there on the field still because he is so tired. He's losing 8 speed to wear and tear, still doing this. And we know this is cover 4 because of his field general. Pat Claybrooks is putting us in a good position to take a lead against Columbia. But we are on a 3rd and 6 that we need to finish out, and this drag's going to be well short. We're just going to have to trust our defense in the final 2 minutes as we hit the field goal. And we could really use an interception in this situation. I'm trying to bait them, but they won't take it. We just need their quarterback to believe that the tight end is open for a split second, and he'll put the ball there. And then we can get in with Jones, get an interception, but instead he's going away from the user. I also know that he is field general now because it popped up what coverage we were in, he's gonna dissect it. And Ethan McLeon has given them the lead as they're also getting the sack. We just have to hurry it up and run that play back. I feel like our tight end should get open over that zone. Instead, I threw it in the triple coverage. And why does this have to happen to me? Why can we not just hang on to our lead? We're taking another sack. Considering it's 4th and 27, I'm not going to use our final timeout. Instead, I'm going to throw up a ball, and if this doesn't go our way, we're going to try to hold them to a field goal. That is exactly how I thought that would go. We didn't have the size over there. We just got to bring them down. We will be completely fine as long as they don't get into the end zone here. And that really shouldn't happen now that it's 3rd and 14, where they've kept it on the ground and they're not going to be able to get much. Now, things would be so much easier if their kicker just decided to shank this kick. I can't hit from this spot on the field. They can't either. And here we go. 23 seconds with a touchdown winning us this game. We're going to have to make sure we get a first down at least. That stops the clock for at least a second, though it's not been letting me snap the ball here. We need an aggressive catch or something. And I'm afraid that way too much time just went off of the clock on that play, though. Right here, we have a chance to get out of bounds. We got to get there, though. We did it with 1 second left on the clock. I know that they're about to send 4 or 5 at us right here, but it's cover 1. We just don't have the speed to beat them with another DB back. We still catch it. We are going to beat Columbia on the final play off of the deflection. I'm so lucky. This is the best way we've ended a game throughout this entire video, maybe in the last few months on the channel. How did we win? Pat Claybooks just has that special touch. He's related to Pat Mahomes somehow. And I don't know what type of voodoo magic is going on over here at Yale, but this is the play of the season right here. He was just in the right spot. It is moments like these that make this game worth it and why I'm able to play it so many times over and over. And I can also confidently say we're doing very well in recruiting. We've already signed pretty much every 4-star gym on our board besides this kid choosing LSU, but I can't blame him. What's more important though is we got Cole B over Harvard. I wish I could say things would get easier for us from this point, but that's not the case. It's only getting harder. We're going on the road at Notre Dame, and it really stinks for Yale that every single season this matchup's locked into their schedule. I thought by this point the Ivy League was pretty good, that it was on par with some of the other conferences, but maybe it's not if we just had a competitive game versus another top 25 team, and at the moment at Notre Dame, we're losing 34-0. We got to get this first down. Just getting on the board has been a problem tonight. We have to make sure that we do at least once. I mean, Claybooks can take it in. The problem is, though, there's not enough time for a comeback unless we get an immediate stop. That's just not happening here. They are literally so good. I am just embarrassed with this final score. We didn't put up a fight at all. We lost by 30. There isn't any guarantees that we're going to win against UMass either. They're a higher overall technically. I mean, we did handle business in this one, winning 45-10. But even if they're 3-3, Harvard's not going to be an easy matchup. Then we have to go on the road at Princeton, still on the road at Penn and Dartmouth as well. I know if this team has any playoff dreams, we cannot lose this matchup. And I've been using teams that haven't had a real shot at beating Harvard for years now, but this one feels like it has a chance. We've actually lucked out because right there, they're saying there was some defensive PI. And that turned a 3rd and 18 into a 1st and 10 where we have started to just move it against them. We're at midfield now. If Peter's healthy, he should be able to take a bulk majority of the carries at the end too. And I have no problem leaning on Tavon in this situation. He's going to get us the first down. All I have done is continue to run down the clock. On 3rd and inches, he's going to get enough. And I wonder when Harvard's going to realize we're trying to settle for 3. There it is. They've called their first timeout. I don't know what our left tackle did, but it sure was not block on that play. Now it's 3rd and 17. We got to get this out. That was a collapse there at the end. I have to make sure I hit this kick now, and it's bad. That is probably the worst attempt I've had in a while. To be honest, after that, I shouldn't even deserve to have a chance still. But fortunately, we still have all of our timeouts left, so we're going to be fine. On 3rd and 12, if they do hand this ball off again, we're prepared for it, and they are going to just go for nothing. I mean, they're slipping around. And that's expected whenever you're playing in a downpour. It's just not going to get them close to the marker. Now, if we have speed, we might have had a big return. I feel like as of recently, besides getting lucky against Columbia, I have not clutched up when I've needed to, so breaking 2 tackles is massive. I'm trying to slide. And we still have 40 seconds left on the clock to get into field goal range. Our line is collapsing, but if this throw is made correctly on the run instead of being an interception, we would have won this game. They're going to go ahead and celebrate like I shouldn't have gotten a ball there. I feel like I put that in a good spot if Pat Claybooks makes a good throw. I don't know why I'm still used to NCAA football 14, where if you have a lead like that, the pass was just guaranteed to go to the right spot, never be behind them. But I'll tell you one thing right now, I am not doing Yale any favors. I have been nerfed having to switch teams every year. It's not looking good going on the road at Princeton. Reality is just seeping in that I am terrible at this game, and look at the rest of the conference. This was our year to go back to the conference championship. If there was ever a time to redeem myself, that would be right now. And I have done done everything in this game to make sure we are in a great spot. With a minute and a half left, Princeton is trailing by 6, so I don't have to worry about my offensive skills. I get to lean on the defense that knocks it loose. And this is perfect. It is a situation I can't possibly mess up unless they really thought they were going to beat my user right there. That was not going to pay off, and we got to get back into field goal range. I am not ruling out the fact that they could force a fumble, that they could force a 3 and out, which means we need to be set up to make this a 2-possession game, and if there's anywhere to go, we're going to take it. I would like to at least center up this kick before we attempt it, especially after last week, though we're going to get the first down. It's over. There it is. I played an end of a game smart, and we actually won. I didn't run around trying to throw it 40 yards down the field without a care in the world. No, it is important that Yale wins out to make it to the playoffs. And really, I just want to see the only 5-star quarterback to ever come to the Ivy League have success. It is only fair that we sim a few of these games, though. We've played a lot of the recent ones, so we're going to sim our next 2. And Penn's one of the only schools I haven't taken over and made a lot better. That is why I figured we'd be okay against them. We scored 44 points. We did much better offensively whenever I simmed. And at the moment, we'd actually find ourselves in the conference championship if we could just win out. I believe that this roster is capable of doing that. And we truly are doing better in sim, beating Dartmouth 27-9 and then California 51-17. Going into this final week of conference play, I'm feeling pretty good. I think we're in the conference championship. And if 78 overall Cornell messes that up, they deserve the win. That has not happened though, because we got this pop-up. Of course, it's Princeton in this game. And as confident as I was simming, we only won this one by 8. That's why I like to hop into it, so I have a little bit more control. When it comes to the recruiting side of things, Syracuse has taken 2 of the 4 stars away from us. Oregon got 1 of them, but at the end of the day, we still signed 15 4-stars with Yale. And I'm sure that's better than any recruiting class that either Princeton or Harvard's thrown together so far, so this is their chance to take the crown as the best team in the Ivy League. Just looking around at some of the other conference championship games, there's a path for 3 teams from our conference to get in. But that is only if we're capable of taking down Princeton for a second time. Well, we are in the exact same situation we were in the last time we played them, and I love it. We have a 6-point lead that we have to defend as they're going to get the first down. I am afraid this is as bad as Princeton's ever going to get, though. They have a freshman quarterback out there, and they are still being treated like they're one of the top teams in the country. If there was any year for us to win the conference, it would be this one. We just have to hang on. But I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that. There's still 90 seconds left, and don't tell me this kid's also fast. The rest of the Ivy League might be in a lot of trouble moving forward. We had someone over there, and you know what? I think it's time for me to use her safety instead. We're going to get the interception with head, and that is big. There's only like a minute left. How many timeouts do they have? I just realized that is game. They only had 1 left, so we're going to get the win. And I told you all that we would get this done with Pat Claybrooks. We get to celebrate winning the Ivy League now with Yale. And that means that half the teams in the Ivy League have won a conference championship in this video now. We're also going to get 3 teams into the playoffs. We still haven't gotten ourselves a Heisman winner, but we did win the best interior lineman with somebody from Yale. And while junior quarterback Pat Claybrooks is down here for Yale, I have looked up at the top of the season stats in the Ivy League, and the best 3 quarterbacks are all freshmen. Kona threw for 44 as a freshman. He also rushed for 300 yards, though that is nowhere near the top of the Ivy League. That is going to go to DeAndre Cummins, who also plays for Princeton. And I'm not sure what happened to make it to where our receiver got so many rushing touchdowns, but 3 of the top 6 rushers in the Ivy League were on Yale. We weren't really a passing team, though. Nothing too exciting to see right there. In our actual conference, we had 3,000-yard receivers. All of them are sophomores. And when it came to our offense, we didn't score as many points as Princeton, though we beat them twice this season. Defensively, it was pretty average compared to the rest of the league. It is really sad, though, that no school is going to be able to compete with Princeton whenever it comes to first-team All-Americans throughout this entire file. They've gotten so many. Even their freshman quarterback took this. But whenever you have the best stats, you deserve it. And looking at some of these coaches' records, Princeton's clearly been the most dominant team. All those statistics are a little bit misleading, though, because I had to sim a couple of seasons before we could actually start this video just to make sure all the teams were as bad as possible. I think the Ivy League's bounced back pretty well from it. They got 3 teams in the playoffs here, though Yale got the worst draw. And that's because we were either facing Alabama or #1 Washington. I have to appreciate making the playoffs in the first place, though. It looks like Princeton lost to Oklahoma and Columbia lost by 2 to Penn State. So the Ivy League is relying on us at the moment. Looking at some of these bowl game results, the conference did not do as good as I would have wanted them to. This is our 7th bowl game, though. There was only 1 team in our conference that didn't make it to one. You know who that 1 team was? Brown. They're going to take a while before they're good again, though I did the best I could to lay a decent foundation. And I'm really just hoping that we don't get embarrassed by Washington. I got my second chance with Yale, and we were able to make it this far. We're pretty good now. But I don't know who the wheel's going to land on in future seasons, so this almost feels like a championship or bust opportunity. If we don't win now, we might never win in this video. We're going to get the 4th and inches run. But Taven Peter is dealing with negative 17 speed. He has a lot of wear and tear issues. To be honest, I think it's the playbook that Yale runs. They don't pass the ball as much as they should. So whether we beat the #1 team in the country or not, I am going to switch things out. I want each team to have a unique play style in the Ivy League, but it would benefit them more if we could pass it more, and I think Claybrooks is going to take it in. Ever since I started taking over here in the 3rd quarter, we have just dominated everything. We're getting the interception on 4th and 10, and if we take this back to the crib, the Huskies are going to stand no chance against Yale. That is how you close out a huge game. We only have 2 left that we have to win. And maybe I shouldn't change up the playbook if Pat Claybrooks is going for 4 touchdowns. Our next opponent is going to be Oklahoma, and they're the team that knocked out Princeton. But we beat Princeton twice this year. We knew that they weren't as good, and there is a real path for us to win it all. Obviously, the Sooners are going to be really good, but I'm not doubting this team against anybody. And I'm starting to think of a vision where we just win multiple championships with multiple different schools in the Ivy League. I might have been thinking a bit too far ahead though. We have done nothing versus Oklahoma. And now that it's 4th and 1, I realize if we don't pick this up, the game is over, so I had to take a little drag underneath. This is exactly why I wanted to switch up the playbook. When we weren't playing Washington, we weren't doing well. And it's been that way all season for us offensively. On 3rd and 10, I don't have enough time to do anything. I'm not sure any of the receivers on this team are good enough to make a huge play on 4th and 17 either. I think we're going to have to scramble for it, and they are all over Claybrooks. That's got to be enough. I am just going to throw the challenge flag. I feel like he got far enough, but the refs still gave it to Oklahoma, so they've just been running the ball. There is really no world where we're able to come back versus them, and I can't believe that for a second I thought the Ivy League was actually the best conference in the country just 6 years into this. We completed it? No. What a terrible way for the year to end. I thought we were about to make a run, but if that's going to happen, we have to have a better defense. Yale needs to be capable of moving the ball in the future too, so we're going to make sure that they're operating out of this Oklahoma air raid playbook, because not only has it gotten the Sooners multiple Heisman trophies, but they just won the national championship. It's a shame that we couldn't win it all with these seniors to end their career. A couple of them are going on to the NFL as 1st round projected picks, and even if it stinks that Jamie Funk left school a year early, it's just going to help Yale get better prospects. Their pro potential grade is through the roof, so is Princeton's. Even Penn put 2 players into the NFL, and it looks like out of the transfer portal, we're the #1 option for a couple 4-star transfers, and even the #1 player in the country. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get this kid on campus, including getting him a real girlfriend so he doesn't have to have a fake one. And that was enough to get him to come to Yale, though we did lose out on this 4-star transfer as a freshman to Oregon. I also let some of the other Ivy League schools take some of the 2-star transfers. The main goal of this video is to make the entire conference better. It looks like Colby is only going to have impact dev, but every single player above him, including 2 of the transfers we brought in, has elite. That includes athlete Dexter Hardrick, who we're going to put at quarterback, and also a left guard, a cornerback, and a wide receiver. Which means even if this class is not ranked inside the top 25, I'd consider it the best one we've had in this entire video. Harvard also signed another 5-star. Jamichael Vigil said he wants to play there in college. They're not getting as many 4-stars as they probably need to. But never mind, it was just 2-star transfers that were rated above them. They had 11 4-stars. Dartmouth had 5, Columbia had 3, Princeton had 4. There's only one team I've taken over in this video that is still struggling with recruiting, and that is Brown. But I think we've done a good enough job with about everything else. Just looking at this class for Yale, it's probably going to get them close to a championship. I have done all that I can for the Bulldogs. Pat Claybrooks only ever got up to an 87 overall, though the team is an 85. And it's kind of crazy we've gotten to the point in this video where who we're using doesn't matter as much. I said I was only going until season number 10, which means we only have a few years left. And anybody that I recruit for Penn this season might not even start a few years from now. This is the last time I'm going to try to put together a real recruiting class, and the reason for that is this team's not the best. But I think they have a few things figured out for their future outlook, like multiple options at the QB position. Even the Quakers don't need as much as I thought they would though. They currently have 23 sophomores and 31 freshmen. So most of their team's pretty young, and I'm excited to say that there's a ton of 4-stars interested in coming to their program. I find it so crazy that even this team has been so average throughout this video, and they have a good overall. They have a chance at having a big season. But that just shows how much better the Ivy League's become throughout this video. We also have a tactician head coach with coordinators that fill all of it up. That might not be the best for recruiting, and I've just noticed this chart on the right side never updates that I've been looking at all video, because our conference prestige is up to an A-. Where it says American and the grade B, it should be an A-. We should be above the Big 12. It should say Ivy League, and that means we would be a Power 5 conference officially, which I think we can claim. We've been putting multiple teams into the playoffs, and I think we could even get Penn there with a schedule like this one. Our first game of the season is against Sam Houston. This this is very winnable. And sure enough, it went well, 29-27 though, so I want to sim the rest of these non-conference games, maybe even against Dartmouth, but we could lose that. This Penn team isn't exactly as good as some of the better ones in the conference, and I'm a little bit worried about how many of these 4-stars we're going to be able to sign because we can only put 55 hours into pretty much every position, and we have 500 hours to spend a week. I was hoping to make sure that I did Penn right, but Clemson stole this 4-star gym, and even Buffalo jumped out for a lead on this 4-star center out of nowhere. As frustrating as that is, though, at least we've continued to win, even if they are close matchups. And I'm starting to feel like we should play against Dartmouth because they're 4-0 while we're sitting at 3-0. These are probably a couple teams that I've overlooked a little bit in this video because they're not some of the big names in the Ivy League. But we can't look past Jalen Cox for any longer. He's dominating. Here at the end of the game, this one's been over for a while, but I'm hoping his stats can get a little bit better. And he is so close to picking up another passing touchdown or a sack. Now it's going to be a little bit harder to reach the end zone, but we're still going to try to do so with him. Using his legs, he's able to take us to the 5. And we're going to see if the halfback screen can work wonders right here. Running backwards, he missed. I have talked this kid up way too much to mess this up right here. There's the touchdown. And that is how we're going to end our first Ivy League conference game with Penn. We scored 23 points in the 4th quarter. That was when he became unstoppable. He's also only a junior. So other schools in our conference might need to worry about this Penn team next season. I'm not happy to see we've been locked out of so many prospects in 1 week. But there's only so much I can do. We're currently sitting at 4-0 and we're still going to lose half of these battles. Our final non-conference test is against UMass. I'm not sure how they're always such a high overall, but they've never been much of a problem. They're on everybody's schedule because they're in the Northeast area, but they never win. We have an issue though. Even though we are undefeated, there are 3 other teams in our conference that are also undefeated. What type of non-conference schedules are they playing? I feel like most of the teams in our conference are getting pretty good draws. Missouri's a tough win for Columbia, but Florida's going to beat Cornell, of course, in one of these weeks. Is there anybody better than Notre Dame? Oh, Cornell lost. I did find one impressive result in week number 5. Ole Miss, number 11 in the country, lost to Harvard on the road by 16 points, but besides that, there's not really difficult games going on. There will be 2 less undefeated teams in our conference after this week, though, because we've all been pinned up against each other. And you know what? I'm starting to think that Princeton is a little bit overrated every single season. As we go into halftime in the rain, we're about to have a 3-possession lead. I've just been trying to run with Jalen Cox, and that means more touchdowns, plus I can't throw an interception. I figured after getting off to a start like that, they'd have no shot at coming back, but that's not necessarily the case. And here on 3rd and 8, I just have to prevent them from getting in, but we can't. Kanaunga has led them back in this game, and on 3rd and 8, we're going down, which means we might actually choke this one away. We're letting them go to the 10. They are so close to getting into the end zone now. I guarded the wrong receiver, and the pass rush in the second half has been off the charts, but that's also because we're using a backup QB. Since Jalen Cox broke his thumb, our offense has just fallen apart, and we're trusting a senior quarterback out there to get us into field goal range, but he is not as quick, and he's probably going to fumble here. Why didn't I slide? I have played so many seasons today, I'm convinced that my brain just isn't working at this point. Where are our defenders? We are literally about to lose to Princeton because of a broken thumb, though we ran commit to the right side. And here we go. We'll see what they go with on 3rd and 5. It's a run that we can stop. We're all over it. I have made so many games in this rebuild way harder to win than they should have been. And it probably benefits our conference a lot more if Princeton doesn't lose. But I have an obligation to get this Penn team into the playoffs because it's the one I'm controlling this season. That isn't happening, though. I've already decided it. Their defensive line is too good unless we can hit this route without them knocking it loose. Apparently this backup has field general as well because it's popped up that they're going to be in cover 4 right here. You know what? Sometimes you just got to send it, and we're going to go for it. Catch it. Yes, that is in the end zone. I came back to the ball. I possession caught it so we wouldn't drop it. That is a user play. And all we have to do to take down Princeton now is make sure they don't get anything on the Hail Mary. It's not happening. That is how you beat a top 3 team. I'm not sure why they're ranked that high. They haven't beaten anybody impressive, but they've proven season after season they can make the playoffs because they start with a high ranking. It's actually benefited the Ivy League a ton that they're consistently good. Yale must have lost their first game to Columbia, and I think we're about to take a step back as a team because Jalen Cox has a broken thumb for another 3 weeks. All of a sudden, I have like no hope for us to go on the road and beat number 6 Yale, and it's not been fun to not have a functioning offense out there. We've scored 10 points. Any comeback hopes are going to have to start about right now with perfect levels of play. But there it is. That sums up this entire game, and they're getting in, so we're going to have to roll out, make the throw, and it's a miss. They picked it. Do you know how it feels to watch a team on offense that we had last season just demolish you and there's nothing you can do about it. That is what this game felt like, and it's my fault because I gave Pat Claybrooks a good playbook. I just have a feeling over the next few weeks we're probably going to fall down the standings. And I'm thankful that in the midst of Ivy League play, we get to take on Army. We were able to bounce back, getting a win, but we still have to wait one more matchup for Jalen Cox to get healthy. None of these teams at the end of our schedule are ranked, though I know Columbia and Harvard are good. And on the recruiting side of things, we officially signed 4 4-star gyms and a couple other 4-stars, but besides that, there's no guarantees we get any of these other dudes. Brown is just an 81 overall, but I took over them a couple years ago. That's why they're 5-3. And playing against them with our backup quarterback, we're going to lose by 19 points, immediately falling out of the top 25. For just a split second, I was starting to have playoff dreams. I'm actually starting to believe that Princeton's not going to make it. And if we don't beat Cornell with our starting quarterback back and healthy, we can just throw this team away. Jalen Cox struggled a little bit trying to get back into a rhythm. He had 2 interceptions, but we still beat Cornell by 7 points. And if we can somehow beat both Harvard and Columbia, we'd be in the conference championship. Columbia seems to be struggling this year in the conference standings, but then again, they're 7-3. I am starting to think that there is too many good teams in the Ivy League for anybody to be amazing. But I feel like this Penn roster could be a championship roster with how well they play whenever I step in. This is a season that I think we've got to finish strong now that Jalen Cox is back. And even though we just dropped that catch, we're going to hit this field goal and take a 3-possession lead on Harvard before we go into the start of the 4th quarter. If they manage to come back against us, I would be shocked. Whenever we're playing in the rain at home, we seem to actually perform well. And they have no choice but to go for it on 4th and 17 where we've backed everybody up. They're throwing it up to a much taller receiver, but Scales still comes back to get that interception, and I'm going to try to return it right here. Come on. They would put up a little bit of an effort at the end of the game, just trying to come back, but it wasn't happening. That is a top 25 win. And it feels like Harvard has just been wasting away some very, very good recruiting classes. For the final week of the season, I think there's some notable games to point out. We got Dartmouth taking on Georgia, Brown taking on Tennessee, Yale against Notre Dame, Princeton at USC for a playoff spot, and of course, our conference game versus Columbia. I am actually very surprised at how uncompetitive this game is in the 4th quarter. We're about to make it 31-3. And this is the first team I've played with that seems to have a real home field advantage. Whenever we play at home, things just seem to go super well. I mean, we're running up the score at this point. And Jalen Cox is going for one more touchdown where you know what I'm doing. I've done this all video. Unfortunately, we gave up our first touchdown of the day in the final seconds. But either way, we're in the Ivy League Conference Championship. Penn is a school that hasn't won it yet, so this would be super cool if we pulled it off. And you can tell that by the season in our conference, there's no clear favorite, but Princeton gets the benefit of the doubt with the highest ranking because they've consistently made the playoffs. They also beat USC by 21 though. Yale ended up losing to Notre Dame, so that is their fault, but Dartmouth took down Georgia. Then when it comes to what we have done in recruiting for Penn, it's a little bit disappointing. We lost quite a few battles, but it wasn't my fault. We couldn't put that many hours into them. And they're just gonna have to take their 9 4-stars, which at the moment gives them the most in the conference, though Cornell and Brown have yet to sign a single 4-star while everybody else is getting some, and even Yale got a 5-star. This is what I'm talking about. It feels like last season, Yale was able to take over as the new best team in the Ivy League, but they're gonna have to prove whether or not that's true in this conference championship. If the underdog can just win in the ACC, the Big 10, or the Big 12 conference championship, this would be for an automatic spot in the playoffs. And talk about a game where defense has mattered a lot. At the moment, we find ourselves down by 4, but I saw they were pressing, and we're gonna get the go-ahead touchdown. Come on. However, it took them less than a minute to score, responding back, and we are not able to run for much. Jalen Cox is gonna have to lead us down the field again. It's man-to-man coverage. Do we have enough time to get it out? We did. And what I'm learning is sometimes you just have to stand there and let a dude come in your face while you try to get the throw out. By the time they get in that quickly, if I run, it's gonna turn into a sack. Our check down's gonna make it a 4th and manageable. But I really don't feel great about handing this ball off, and what are we doing? That just put us in a much worse spot. They're gonna complete this pass. And I'm pretty sure they've already been able to get into field goal range. The one thing we have going for us is it is 3rd and 6. They're gonna have to throw to pick it up. And what's our zone doing? The other one just fell over. You've got to be kidding me. I really wish he didn't turn his back to the ball. Whenever the computer does it, they get an interception. Whenever we do it, our other safety just falls over. They get a touchdown. And a spot in the college football playoffs is not looking too likely, but we still have to have a little bit of hope. Here, Jalen Cox is going to get pressured probably quick. I was throwing this to this receiver whether it was open or not, and it actually worked. We're going to probably have to throw that corner route again, though he's getting pressured. I'm trying to throw it away. Come on. All right, 3rd and 10 now. Big comeback on the line. I've tried to throw this route in the past. It's dropped, but at least it wasn't intercepted. And if I just drill this field goal, we're still in this game. I've even adjusted the camera. I remember a comment telling me that this makes the kick much more easy. Though I'm not sure that's even a word. I'm losing my mind trying to save this conference. Make a tackle! I just did the most brain dead thing ever as well because I accidentally said something I shouldn't have in my video. I let them chew the clock and then called our timeout. We needed to not do that. And the reason for that is they can basically run out the rest. Our entire season is all going to come down to a punt return. And even though there's some faster guys with like 95 speed, they have 83 acceleration. So we're going to have to put this kid in. Markel Scales, I even redshirted him for this season, is going to be back there for this moment. But hang on. If we fair catch this, we can throw it up to the end zone. I've seen the computer do terribly stupid things in this situation. They have come out pressing. It's man-to-man coverage, though, which is going to make this so much harder to have work. And we should have had like 30 seconds on that drive. It is my fault. I kind of crashed out without crashing out. But there it is. We lost to a backup quarterback. Yale didn't even have their former 5-star recruit at quarterback, and they still beat us. Pat Claybrooks has torn his hamstring. That makes more sense why they lost to Notre Dame the week before, and he's going to be out for the entire playoff. I am not sure yet if Yale was able to get in or not. TCU won the Heisman Trophy. Tell me we are not in the Scooter's Coffee Bowl. Hang on, our punter won the Best Punter Award. Well, we're playing Florida State in the Military Bowl. At least it's something a bit different. And the 5th at-large spot went to Liberty instead of Yale. I would argue this is one of the best and most balanced seasons the Ivy League has had since we've started, but Princeton's the only team that's going to get into the playoffs. We had 6 teams go 8-4 or better. Due to some injuries, though, like Harvard's quarterback getting injured, we're going to have stats all over the place. There's Jalen Cox. Imagine if he was healthy all season. And some of these other quarterbacks, like Cornell's, aren't actually leading our conference in interceptions. It was at the top. Brown's quarterback with the most passing yards and the most turnovers. Kana Unga took a huge step back though for Princeton. I should also point out that before Pat Claybrooks got hurt, he was on a tear. And on the rushing side of things, Tavon Peter for Yale is the first one to have a 1,000-yard season throughout this entire thing, but we were right behind with ours. Then receiving, Brown had the #1 receiver in our conference by 5 yards. Melvin Merriman on Penn, our receiver, was right behind him, 1 less touchdown. But I did notice that with all these other receivers, Princeton had a running back with 700 receiving yards up here, and then there is Alex Hagan also on Penn. By this point in the file, the first team All-American list in our conference doesn't mean as much, though Pat Claybrooks is up there for Yale at #1 at QB. And I'm a little bit surprised at how bad our offense was. I thought it was going to be better. I thought it'd be near the top of the conference. Our defense wasn't either. Oh well, all around, this is still the most successful season in Ivy League history because there are 7 of our 8 teams playing in a bowl game. And I cannot disappoint Penn fans by losing to Florida State. Not like this. I have allowed myself to get over the loss to Yale. We can redeem ourselves here. Or we could get a massive wake-up call. We're going to lose this one by 24 points unless we just pull off a miracle. I'm going for everything. And either way, the final score is not going to be pretty. I'm just trying to make it look a little bit better. We could even get it within a 2-possession game if we get the 2-point conversion. Jalen Cox, go ahead and celebrate. And that is crazy work to do whenever you're losing by this much, but I'm trying to figure out the method for the onside kick still. I'm following the comments. I will get one of them eventually. You know what? A 16-point loss is not pretty. This would have happened in like season 3 or 4. But it is what it is. Some other teams in our conference didn't show up for their bowl games either, like Brown. They lost by 17, but Princeton beat Michigan 38-7 in the playoffs. And I don't care if I'm not controlling them. I just want to see a team from our conference win a championship in this video. The next week, TCU got dropped off 35-18, so there is some hope. And it is Kona Unga that's coming up big time. 4 touchdowns, no picks. I wish that Team Builder wasn't tied to online dynasty files, because then I could use multiple teams. I could hop into this game with Princeton and at least get to spectate to see what's happening, because right now all we can see is this box score where Princeton just dropped 45 on West Virginia. For a team that normally passes the ball, they didn't do that well, but instead they just ran it down their throats. And this is the second time in this video a team from our conference has made it this far. You know what happened though? Landry Orlando, who I'm pretty sure won the Heisman in his career, threw for 350 yards, 5 touchdowns, while Unga had 2 interceptions, and Oklahoma wins by 14. Even if our conference has massively overachieved so soon, we still have not won a title. And the Quakers are going to be pretty good next season because of what I've done with them, plus they're not losing much, so this is just going to make the Ivy League even more competitive. I'm really not sure how much of a step back Princeton's going to take. They only had 2 players leave to the NFL. And then I went over to check on the Yale team that took us down in the conference championship. They had 6 players in the NFL. I don't feel bad about losing losing. All that we had was Tyler Booker, a 7th round tight end. And what is this? Harvard had 3 first-round draft picks even though they went 9-4. 2 of them were running backs. There's some crazy stuff going on right now. We're also going to have a few 4-star transfers to go after for Penn before we leave them. But just knowing how the regular season went, I bet we're even going to struggle to sign some of these 2-star transfers. I never even got a pop-up that we signed a 4-star prospect, which means I can assume that we lost all these battles. I tried my best. We also lost a couple 2-stars to Akron of all schools, and even Purdue's coming in. Another P is coming in and taking our players. It is hard to feel good about trying as hard as I can and signing the 75th best class in the country, even if we got 9 4-stars, but look at some of these other classes. Without my help, the computer at Yale signed the 13th best class in the country. That is very impressive. And guess what? The conference ranking list finally updated itself, where the American, aka the Ivy League, is sitting at number 3 in the country. We've made them better than the ACC and the Big 12. It's crazy to me how good we've made everybody. Penn is up to an 87 overall, and this is when I'm gonna have to leave them and find a new team. This is so sad. I don't want to leave them. Jalen Cox even got jumped, the senior quarterback, by sophomore Ben De La Rosa. And here we go. I only get to spin this wheel 2 more times in this video. We are gonna get to play with Princeton. That is perfect. It has been such a long time since I saw the face of Raphael Swenson. That was the first team we used. And in this 8-year time frame, they've won the conference championship 3 times. They've won playoff games, they've won bowl games, and they've pretty much stayed above 10 wins now for 6 straight years. They already have a full roster, so I definitely don't have to recruit this season. We're still gonna have to cut a few players. And it's a shame that Swenson didn't save any coach points to go into Program Builder, because I just got told we could unlock it. This is what the coordinators look like. Perfect. So we're set up for success. There's no hard non-conference games on this schedule besides USC near the end of the year, but I've just noticed how many teams are ranked inside the Ivy League. This projection is crazy. They think that 5 of our teams are going to finish inside the top 25. I don't think it would have been possible to achieve more than we have with this conference in this video. I guess we still have to get that national championship, but we have officially become a Power 5, even a Power 3. And although Princeton does have some team needs, I'm going to go after 5 stars as many as we can, but besides that, I'm just going to leave it up to the transfer portal. Our roster for the season consists of 2 94 overall running backs, even though they just had 2 running backs get drafted into the first round, and of course, we know who we have at QB. I am so excited to use Kona Unga. He was just a 3-star prospect, but he has shot up in overall. His accuracy is not what I thought it would be. But I guess when your best receiver has 99 speed, it doesn't really matter. You can just chuck it up. It's going to be interesting to see what we can do with this Princeton roster. Even going after all these 5 stars, I'm hoping to sign at least 10. That's a big goal. But we've gotten their school grades looking about as good as they're going to get, and I'm surprised that our championship contender isn't at an A+. We still have 2 seasons left in this rebuild, but this has got to be our best chance at winning a championship, so we got to take full advantage of it. There are certain teams on our schedule I'm not too worried about, and that really goes for these first 4 games. I don't think we're going to lose any of them after beating an FCS school by 46, but we're going to start playing against Yale. Up until that point, there's not much that I can do. I just have to sim these matchups, hoping for the best. And I'll also be doing some recruiting in between those games. As you can see, there are some 5-star gyms I'd love to land. It's just Oregon's going to get the quarterback. By week 5, I've already lost multiple battles, so it's nice to see this committed screen. And just looking at our entire board, there's probably another 6 or 7 of these prospects that are going to settle on Princeton. Even if it doesn't mean much, that's what I was hoping for. As for our non-conference games, we won each one by quite a bit besides against Army. And before we start Ivy League play, Dartmouth is struggling the most at 1-4. Penn also lost 2 non-conference games, which is a little bit surprising. I just figured they'd have a better year than that, but now it is time to go on the road at number 5 Yale. Just being honest, I'm not excited about the position that we're in with a few minutes left. We're down by 2 possessions, but they probably are one of the best teams in the Ivy League, and I can't believe I just scrambled right here. I saw our tight end wide open in the end zone late. Now we're going to try to go over to our halfback, see if Cummings is able to outrun all these kids, and at least with that touchdown, we have it back within 3. As long as we can keep Yale from picking up a first down, we're going to be just fine. And I'm a little bit nervous for the second down play call, but we're all over it. All right, here on 3rd and 10, it's another run. We have that all handled, and they've not pinned us very far back with this punt either. I can't believe they let us return it. In my first game controlling Princeton, I have a chance to prove myself that I can get this team a championship. And everything was going super well until that play right there. I feel like the pocket's collapsing as well. It's a fumble, and I completely panicked. It is 3rd and 23. We have to wait for our crossing route to get open right here. and they're going to intercept it. They're going to intercept it. That was the only place for me to go as well on the field. Everybody else was just blanketed in coverage. That was great defense. But it definitely stinks that our undefeated season has already been ruined. I'm hoping we have a chance to get revenge in the conference championship, but we have to get there first, and in 1 week we lost out on 4 different 5-stars. At least we didn't fall very far in the polls. Yale is up to the number 2 team in the country, so it elevated their ranking. And you probably didn't think that we would be sitting at the bottom of the Ivy League conference standings with Princeton ever. I'm not happy about it. I'm also not happy about how well I built up Brown, because they're currently sitting at 5-0. And the worst part is they could win on this final drive, as they have the ball down by 5 points and they're moving it. I wanted to play this one just to make sure that we didn't fall to Brown, but I think it might actually happen. They can't get out of bounds, and they're gonna have to spike the ball after wasting some time. I have put a quarterback contain out there for this play since they like scrambling so much. And here on 3rd and 10, we know that they want to go up the seam, but that's a terrible pass. All right, this is a huge down right here. This is the game. If we just swat it down, we're gonna be good. 50-50 ball. We get the interception with Childress, and you know what? We're also gonna try and return it, because I want to rub it in their faces. Their quarterback played like the same color that their team reps. We win this one by 5. And maybe Kona Unga is going for a little Heisman Trophy push. He might not be up there yet, like Yale's quarterback and Harvard's quarterback, but it could happen. And taking an updated look at the Ivy League standings, we're gonna need Harvard to lose at least 1 conference game to move back up. They're gonna be on the schedule eventually. Now we have Dartmouth, though. We built them up. I'm not sure how long ago it was, but if that's the roster that I built and they're now sitting at 1-6, my apologies. We just squeezed by them, winning by 3 in OT. It was a close call, and looking at some of these remaining games, Columbia's fallen to 4-3. They were ranked at one point. Penn also 4-3. We need to face off against Harvard and maybe even USC. But since I've already played a couple matchups, I do feel safe simming this one. I took it a little bit too far, though, advancing to week after week, and then we lost to Cornell, one of the worst teams in our conference, which is exactly why I should probably be playing against USC, but they're 4-6. I trust this roster. That could have backfired on us, but Kona threw for 3 touchdowns. We ended up winning by 10 points. And with 1 conference game left against Harvard, we have a chance to make it to the Ivy League championship, but if we lose, we're not going to make the playoffs. I have to say, I am impressed that Yale is still undefeated. I think that's the first time we've had a team stay undefeated in our conference for this long. There's also teams up here like Brown. They've never made the top 25. And Kona Unga might have never entered the Heisman race, but Yale's quarterback is still right up there in the running. As for recruiting, it looks like we are going to finish signing 7 5-stars. That's great for Princeton. But what we need at the moment is a win over Harvard. Well, we have a nail biter in this one. At the moment, things are all tied up. I don't think we're going to get anything here, which means if we're going to take a lead, we're going to have to settle for a field goal. I'm going to do my little trick of adjusting the camera, and this should be good straight down the middle. I also know that sometimes the computer can be weird about 3rd down stops. We might be able to get them to punt it back to us as long as we just wrap up here. How did he turn the corner like that? We had the stop all figured out, and now we're going to have to actually hold them. But that is much easier said than done. Their quarterback's in the Heisman race for a reason. I have used my powers of jinxing players, though, to cause him to make a bad pass. That one he hit on the money. And I'm sure he's going to do it again as they just go underneath. We almost want them to get into the end zone. That'll at least give us a chance to respond, though they're 10 yards out, so we could get the stop. And from here, we can just use our timeouts to make sure we will get another chance at responding back, though I knew they were scrambling. I was sending players. The lack of awareness on a team like this is astonishing. And I don't like the pressure of only having 51 seconds to take them down, but this is how we're going to win. It did just hit me, though, that we have a 99 speed receiver on this roster. I haven't played in about a day now. I was filming last night, but I'm going to use him. Of course, the smart thing to do right there was to scramble, but we've beaten the press on the next play, and there it is, wide open. That was the worst decision Harvard could have made in that situation, and I think we're going to be okay. They shouldn't be able to get into field goal range in such a limited, short amount of time, but it is still a possibility. All we have to do is make sure this plays at least 7 seconds. That's a 2-on-2, swat it down, and I'm not sure if anybody even touched the ball. Either way, it wasn't completed. We have taken down Harvard. We're in the conference championship, and it's going to be against Yale, who's won the Ivy League back-to-back seasons. I can't even say I'm surprised that they went 12-0. I built that roster up. I made it solid. Browns also finished inside the top 15, and I'm not 100% certain whether or not we'd be in the playoffs if we lost this game. We really just needed to avoid losing to Cornell, and we'd be in a much better spot. But with that touchdown pass, we are right back in this game. We'd also force an interception to set us up pretty well as we're driving down the field again. But before the fourth quarter started, we hadn't gotten any touchdowns in this matchup, and I think we got this speed with Unga right here. You got to get to the end zone. Get in. He was so close to finishing off. Now we have to lean on the run. We're not going to get in. No, we are. And I can't tell whether or not they're going to run it on 3rd and 1. 1, but I'm taking the chance and we fill the gap. That might just go down as the play of the game, though this could right here too. We've beaten them deep. I wanted to try a deep ball, and Kona Unga delivered. Now we're going to start trying to run out some of the clock against them. Hold on to it. Whenever you see your dude getting lifted up in the air like that, you're not exactly sure what's going to happen. But we seem to be okay. It's 3rd and 2. And we had to aggressive catch it. That was a terrible read. And I can't believe it didn't result in an interception. I think Yale should have the ball back. Instead, we're in the perfect position. We need to get a first down, not a touchdown. But right before our 3rd and 1 play, we had a false start. That's going to mess up everything. It's going to give Yale a little bit of hope. We have to go down at the 2. I think that's enough. And there it is. We can take a quarterback kneel and win this game. Even though we're using Princeton, it feels good to win the Ivy League, which wouldn't have been possible without DeAndre Cummins. Our offense didn't come alive until the 4th quarter. That cannot happen in the playoffs. And we're probably the reason the Heisman Trophy didn't go to Yale's quarterback. We are going to get a bye week, of course. I don't know why I was expecting a bowl game matchup to pop up. Looking at the bracket, Yale might have an easier path than us. We're playing the winner of the rivalry between Michigan and Michigan State. I can see why Kona Unga wasn't in the Heisman race, though. He threw for as many touchdowns as Yale's quarterback, except he had twice as many interceptions, so having more passing yards just doesn't mean as much. And Harvard's quarterback actually had the least interceptions in the Ivy League, but he also had the least amount of passing yards. Rushing-wise, that is where Harvard dominated. But to my surprise, DeAndre Cummins had the most rushing touchdowns. Then over here on the receiving side of things, you're going to see that we came very close to having 5,000-yard receivers. There were only 3. 2 of them played for Princeton. One of them was our 99 speedster, and the best one was on Yale. As for team stats, Harvard averaged the most points per game, even though they went 8-4. They had another season that was a bit of a letdown, but that's probably because of their defense. It was in the bottom half of the Ivy League, while us and Yale were at the top. Of course, the 1 year that I'm using Princeton, there aren't that many first-team All-Americans. It looks like we only have 4 of them, and we're going to have to deal with the Wolverines in the next round. Even though the Ivy League had 5 teams that were bowl eligible this year, that's the least amount we've had in quite a bit. It looks like Yale did beat TCU by 3, so they're going to play Jacksonville State. And I would say that they're so lucky, but they're probably going to have to play Ole Miss next. As for us, we've gotten the Wolverines. They're slightly better overall, but that's nothing this team can't handle. We've played against some tough opponents. As we approach the end of the first half, we have ourselves a 4-point lead, but I'm hoping that we're able to extend it. A good run here should get us out of bounds. And I'm just hoping for a cover 2 look right here. We've not gotten that. They got in immediately, but we are still able to scramble with one of the best quarterbacks. All we have to do is keep up stuff like that. Our tight end is able to get open with his route, and we're in the end zone. This is how Princeton's playing football. We're performing well, waving to the fans. And since we've done such a good job at maintaining our lead throughout the 3rd quarter, we're getting a huge run right here from Cummins. I think we're going to be just fine versus Michigan, though I would like one more touchdown. I don't know why I threw that. I thought we could come back, click on, and make a play. I tested out something new. It didn't really work out, and they're going to be able to laser us over the middle. If there is anybody capable of choking this lead away and blowing this game, it is most definitely me. But we could also make things much more difficult for them by getting a stop on 4th and 4, and what was my user doing? I'm much better when I just take over a safety. I feel like I can bait them into reads, and this is an interesting approach from them. They're not going for it. They take their 3. I play this game way too aggressively to make a smart decision like that. But they're throwing Cummins around like a rag doll, so we need to pick up this 3rd and 11. I've just thrown up a 50-50 ball, and there's a flag. You can sit there and celebrate, buddy, but you have interfered with us, and that just gets us one step closer to taking down Michigan. I also believe we're going to have a touchdown right here, just based off of the coverage they came out in. But that wasn't the best of ideas. Now it is 3rd and 7. Our running back's able to get open, and Cummins is turning upfield. Oh, that's going to seal the game. Whether we pick up this 3rd and 3 or not, we have already made it to field goal range. And this is one of the simpler kicks in the video that we are most definitely going to hit. Princeton is on to the semifinals. We only have to win 2 more games if we want to win a championship. And like I said, I'm pretty confident in this team. We are now going to have to face off against the number 2 team in the country, though. And on the other side of the bracket, of course, Jacksonville State couldn't beat Yale. The Ivy League still has 2 different chances to win a national championship for the first time this season. So the odds are at like 50% right now, but it's only going to feel right if we're able to get this done with Princeton. Maryland's had some good seasons in this dynasty, so I can't say I'm surprised they're playing us well. But considering we have the ball with 2 minutes left, we have all the control. As long as we keep on picking up first downs, we can win this one. That was a huge pass right there. Now I'm looking over to that left side. I was hoping for cover 2. That's what we got. And we could technically settle for a field goal from here. We don't even have to score a touchdown, but it would be nice. Here on 3rd and 9, they're going with man-to-man coverage, and we're going to be able to evade the pressure. We just got to scramble for the first, which is what we got, but we did run out of of bounds and our fullback gets us 6. I probably shouldn't even be running the speed option in this situation, knowing it can get glitchy, but Clemens is going to have enough. And now I'm nervous that we did all of that way too soon because they have been moving it down the field. I don't know how we did not get that interception. It is what it is though. There's only 35 seconds left in this game. They complete it in bounds. And that is a guarantee that more time's gonna run off the clock. Why would you test Snyder like that? We're gonna take down Maryland. We've earned our spot in the championship. And you know what? I'm being disrespectful. We're gonna return this for a pick 6. If number 5 catches us, I'll be very surprised. Keep on going. Keep on going. That is how we're gonna handle business here at Princeton, beating Maryland. I know they're not normally an impressive team to take down, but they are in this dynasty. And it looks like Yale was not able to make it to the national championship. Here we go though. This is the moment we've been waiting for. It is our opportunity to get the Ivy League a national championship. And these teams are as evenly matched as it gets, so we know that it's going to be a good game. It has very clearly been all about offense though. Just seeing how many points they've put up versus us using playmaker, we might have a touchdown right here to score another one. And that's what we need since we've given up 24. I like the position that we're in right now. I'm hoping for an interception. They threw it near us. And we're 5 minutes away from getting it done. Baguette's gonna get the return, go nowhere. But something I'm gonna try is throwing this football up to him. There's no reason to do it. We're in a good spot, but go for the aggressive catch and drop it. Just let me go for my highlight plays for a split second. Now we can use the read option to pick up the first down, go for a bit more. And on this next third down, we are going to have our tight end. It's underthrown, but we still get past the marker. We're actually starting to get near the point in the game where we should be running out some more clock. Why have you not turned around? But there's just part of me that wants to throw up another deep pass, and we have the speed to beat him over there. This is going to give us a 2-possession lead. I know that I could have abused that way more this season than I did, but I think we've had a good time. We're going to get the interception with Stroud, and you know what? This is the perfect time to say it. I might swerve in that corner. Whoa. And there we are celebrating the national championship. We got it done. Season number 9 with Princeton. If it was going to be anyone throughout this video, it was probably them. And the wheel spin blessed us for sure during last offseason. Kona Unga might even return for one more year. And isn't this bracket just such a beautiful sight to see? What's interesting is, like I thought, I don't see Kona's name up here to go on to the NFL early. And this Princeton team alone put 6 players on to the NFL. Penn had 3, Yale is going to have 5, and even Columbia's contributing. Cornell has definitely struggled. I never took them over though. Dartmouth had 4 players on to the NFL, and Harvard had 4 as well. I've just been a bit curious, checking in. There's only 2 players that are even considering transferring to Princeton. But even after winning a championship, we still cannot out-recruit Oregon. They are a powerhouse on this game. You'll see that we signed the 51st best class with 7 5-stars. And this roster is going to be a 91 overall, so I know I've set them up perfectly for this next season. I have to head back to the wheel one more time though. I won't be controlling them, I'll be controlling Brown. And just taking a quick look through all the teams' overalls going into this final season, Cornell is a 79, but Brown is the 2nd lowest overall. I also have to encourage 25 players to transfer. And it somehow completely slipped my mind that Brown was successful last season, finishing inside the top 15, so they might be decent. They're one of the reasons that the Ivy League/American is still ranked as a top 3 conference. And for this final season, I kinda just want to see how things would play out without me stepping into any games. There isn't any players on this Brown roster that I recognize name-wise, even at the quarterback position. And we got the Ivy League a championship, but now I guess we'll see if anybody comes up in the Heisman running and maybe even wins the trophy. If I had to predict our record based off of this schedule, I'd probably give us like 8-4, and this makes things far less stressful. Well, there is exactly why I didn't even want to try to win with this Brown roster. They finished as the worst team in the Ivy League, though there are 4 teams inside the top 10. And what is going on in college football for that to happen? Rutgers is ranked 8th with 4 losses. Michigan also has 4 losses up here at number 12. Okay, I see how it's been chaotic. But what about Brown's actual season? So they lost to Army, we lost to Cornell. That's an embarrassing loss. Princeton and Yale makes sense. We beat number 10 Harvard, and then we also lost to teams like Tennessee. Not a strong finish for us. The Volunteers weren't even in the SEC championship somehow. It looks like Princeton lost by 1 to Yale. And there's no way Landry Gideon actually won the Heisman Trophy this season. The Ivy League has somehow put 4 teams into the playoffs. Maybe they're one of the best 2 conferences in the game now. We'll have to check for that, but Harvard, Columbia, and Yale are all in the same portion of the bracket. And I think this is the perfect send-off for the conference. Princeton literally had like the entire first team of All-Americans with their offensive line. Even behind blockers like that, though, they didn't have the #1 rusher in our conference. It was actually Eric Sexton on Harvard. And then receiving-wise, there were so many guys dominating. It looks like Princeton had 2 up there. That's what I expect out of the team that we just used. And Kona Unga is never going to get his Heisman Trophy because he just throws way too many interceptions. Meanwhile, Yale's quarterback only had 1. Apparently, Brown had the worst offense in the Ivy League, and the top teams in the conference are going to dominate in points per game. I'm sure defense is going to look like that as well. No, Harvard still stinks. And we'll see if anybody from our conference wins it all. I wasn't sure what to expect out of this bracket. It looks like Harvard beat Columbia to then lose to Yale. Princeton beat Georgia to lose to Ole Miss, which was a rematch of the national championship. And then after Yale beat Harvard, they got to play Southern Miss for a spot in the championship against Jacksonville State, who beat them by 4. That is kind of sad for Yale. They could have gotten it done. We would have had 2 national champions in this video. Looking at the career records, it was actually Harvard's head coach that had the least amount of losses. And I feel like these coach stats aren't too accurate because it says Harvard didn't win a conference championship. They did. The other teams to win it were Columbia, Yale, and Princeton. Plus, I don't think it's any surprise that Cornell, the one team that the wheel didn't land on, had the worst record in this video. All of those stats were before the NFL draft as well, so these are other picks that could be added to them where Kona Unga went in the 6th round. Princeton had 7 players in the NFL. That's a record. No team from the Ivy League in this video has sent more in a season, but Yale did the same thing, sending 7. I think the best way to end this video off is to see a brief overview of every team's record during these 10 seasons. Apparently, I can't scroll back to see that first year with Brown, but this is what they did. Their best record was 10-3. And I know that Cornell didn't have much success, but their best season was actually this past season where they won their first bowl game. Dartmouth is another program I don't remember too much about from this entire filming session, but they did make a bowl game most seasons, and their best year was 10-3. After them, I think the 5th best team from the Ivy League in this video was Penn. They had that 10-4 season where I was controlling them, I'm pretty sure. And a couple Scooters Coffee Bowls. The next team up is Columbia, 4th best throughout this video. They made the playoffs 3 times, and they never won a single game. They did not have any postseason success. Now we're taking a look at Harvard. I'm not sure how to rank the top 3 the best, but it actually seems like they won 2 conference championships. I feel like I'm forgetting about one. And when you compare that 9-year time frame to what Yale has done, I think they have them slightly beat. It's just Yale won 3 of the last 4 conference championships, and they just had that national championship run. I think Yale would be the clear number 2 if they would have won that championship game, but the clear number 1 has to be Princeton. They're the only team that won a championship in this video, and they were so dominant. That is my ranking of the Ivy League schools in this video. Looking at the conference rankings, the final one, we're going to finish with the 3rd best conference. And I know that this video was far from realistic just because I replaced the team builder teams with teams that had academic prestige as A+ grades, so those were some decent programs. So I have a feeling that's why we saw some teams have so much success, but either way, fun concept. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, let me know in the comments as well, and check out some of my other videos.